everybody hear us? Will the microphones pick up enough where y'all can hear me talk? Everybody in here? Like last couple times we had some questions that we couldn't hear on there. James, can you go ahead and try yours, test yours?
Okay, can you hear me just fine?
God, it's loud. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man. Okay.
Good.
All right, well, let's go ahead and bring this meeting to order. First off, whoever brought the good weather, thank you. A lot better in here than it was last time. Heck, Don's even in shorts. We were in parkas last time.
I'm behind.
We were up here talking. And you were
I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, there you are.
At least I remembered it before we got free through.
I even got glasses.
That's why I had it.
Oh, there we go. We're gonna hit record here. There we go. All right, so we're gonna make sure everybody knows this was a meeting for March 26th, 2022. So welcome everybody. First off, we're gonna start with James Depew on reading the minutes from our previous meeting. You have those
I do
out
right
there?
here. Yep, and they're much shorter.
All right.
Alright, February 26th, 2022 Board of Directors meeting minutes. Board of Directors in attendance: Kevin Clifton, James Depew, Becky Barber, James Taylor, Randy Powell. Number 1, architectural control. Minutes from January were read and approved. Number 2, forms have been approved for restriction as sent in. Number 3, updated form with purpose of buildings uploaded onto the webpage. And ask for volunteers to form an architectural control committee. And property not back into the LTHOA name. Nathan West sent paperwork in, that has not been approved. Any charges for architectural approvals need to be approved by submitting a restriction amendment vote by members at annual meeting. I hope this makes sense, I haven't reread that. And the pools and parks, Randy Powell, the pool violation was corrected with inner tubes, the hot water heater element was replaced, drain replacement needs to be done when warmer weather, and the urinal issues need further work. Power washing bathrooms to be completed, warmer weather. Fixing shower handles, need to purchase and schedule. Zoom meeting, discussed running Wi-Fi over to the CC building, additional picnic tables in the park, perhaps made or donated. Replace light fixtures, need to be bought and installed. 1099 contract and direct deposit for cleaning completed. New bathroom signs installed on doors and door jamb to be worked on some more. We'll continue providing toilet paper, may need to adjust the budget if it keeps going up. Secretary, Security, James Taylor, announced that Security, Don Taylor of Butch Drain submitted resignations effective March 15, 2022. Security light by Guard Shack Electric, voted and approved to be turned off at LREC to be done by James Depew. Voted and approved all future security guards to be 1099 contractors, provided their own liability insurance, and provide all items needed to do the job. Direct deposit for all payroll from this point forward. List of all key holders and create a master key list needs to be completed by Mr. Taylor. Monitoring adjustments of office area cameras needs to be completed by James Taylor. Trash cameras and monitoring of trash drop-off need cameras set up for real-time monitoring, and security distributing LTHOA forms and architectural forms will continue. Roads and utilities. Tractor repairs approved for battery purchase and check out further repairs. Leaking hydraulics. Stop sign at Cherokee Canyon Rock was installed. Gravel spread around office trash. Discussed to be completed when we know if tractor is able to be repaired. Need more gravel when project is started. Purchase larger gravel to make bed and then smaller gravel spread on top. Healy pad signs up but need more work. Office and treasurer, Becky Barber. All lots assigned a name will be on bulletin board and webpage. Please verify your names are corrected for lots. Statements are printed, stuffed, and mailed. 2021 treasurer's report corrected, January 2022 completed, and will be put on the bulletin board after approval during meetings. CPA update for W-2s, 1099s, taxes. It's hard to get an answer. W-2s were emailed to Becky, not received in the mail, and she printed off and distributed. 1099s mailed and received as far as we know. It was already recommended and approved that all positions be 1099 contractors, direct deposits implemented, computer data transfer update. Still waiting for new accounting software to start before using a new computer. Accounting software discussion announced the purchase of AppFolio and emails are needed to create portals. Scheduled for May 1, 2022 to be uploaded and running. Cost was $1,000, 80 cents per portal monthly. Online payments will be available. Presented treasurer's report for December 2021 and January 2022 for comparison for approval for 2022 budget. Approved 2022 budget, $90,000 expenditures with line items to be amended as needed based on costs associated with lien filings and security payroll, among other expenditures, but based on $90,000. New business brought to the table. Last meeting, no discounts to be taken on past dues. Voted and approved. Heater's not working. Check propane tank and refill if necessary, conducted by Randy Powell. January, February meeting minutes to be condensed by Becky Barber. We'll have direct deposits stopped for security payroll after March 15th and security guards. All petty cash, tree fund, social group fund, and dump station monies have been deposited in checking account. No money in the safe at this time. Community center to be available to be rented for $50 a day with a $50 cleaning deposit, but voted and approved that no fees for community events. Guard shack recommended to be sold, waiting for community input. And the board meeting minutes were written by Becky Barber, submitted via email, approved by 5 votes of the board of directors.
Outstanding. All right, at this point, we have any discussion on the minutes, anything need to be amended that you can think of from our previous month?
I don't make a motion to accept the meeting.
Got a motion and a second?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Okay, next on discussion, I'll go ahead and pass the buck this go around because we got a little bit more to discuss on our secretary side and our treasurer's reports. So we're gonna turn this over to Miss Becky here, and hopefully we're gonna keep this within about a 3-hour minimum for you. Okay. I'm just being serious. All right, Miss Becky, now go right ahead if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you. So, first of all, it's like I need email addresses. I know I keep stating that, but I really need email addresses. It's like we have uploaded as much as we have on the AppFolio. I am roughly at 40-ish, maybe 45%. So I have 55% that I don't have an email address for. All of the lot information that we discussed last month, that we went through the county webpage and I looked for all of the owners' names, has been entered. And unfortunately, it's on a daily basis. Things change out here and I don't actually get notified for everything, but I'm gonna have to go in and change a lot all over again. I need to please be told if you sold a lot, you bought a lot, and you are new, I'm trying to get all that put together because we're charged 80 cents per portal, per owner. And if we're being charged for something that we don't need to be charged for, you'll find out here in a few minutes, we need every penny. So, the owner's dues list is out on the bulletin board. I did get that put out after our February meeting. It has been updated as often as I can possibly keep updated with. It has a dollar amount to your name. If you have a dollar amount to your name, it is because you have past dues. And trying to explain that is like to capture every single lot that is owned by that person. I had took the amount that's due and put it by each. I mean, there's people that have lots like, you know, all over every block. I had put that same amount on each lot so that I can capture all of the lots when we do put the liens together. When you do make a payment on there, I've been trying to update that as well and change your number of your votes, which is that last number out to the side. It shows how many votes you have. People are asking me like, why is this a 0 out here? It's because if you have a main number, your lot number that's associated to your account, that's where your number of votes are. If it's a 0, that's where it's at, or it means that you owe dues and you don't have any votes. Okay, so on the February's treasury report is on the bulletin board as well. and that was the budget that we voted on. As stated on the January treasurer's report, the beginning of this year was $28,500, give or take a few. So that's what I wanna use these figures on whenever I start talking about this. It's like since January to the end of March, and I tried to take everything that I know is coming out, including the payroll. And, been talking to our CPA lady yesterday. So far, from January 1 to here, we have brought in $47,100 in dues, which is roughly 40% of what we can expect, give or take on that as well. After the expenses for the first quarter of the month, which is approximately $21,700, we're gonna have approximately, and I'm gonna try to do this fast, $25,400, which is going towards expenditures. Unfortunately, since there was no taxes filed for a few years on the withholdings for the employees that we did have, the lady went through and she told me that not including penalties and not including the CPA fees, that what we owe the IRS in the state of Oklahoma at this moment is $14,400. And like I said, that does not include penalties. That's 2021 and 2020 so far. And she still hasn't gone through the rest of everything else, because we do have a 990 that we have to file. And then, if I'm not mistaken, she told me at the very beginning of this that each time we filed, that it was $350. And so we did not file for 2020, the second, third, fourth quarters, or none of the 2021. And that's roughly 15 quarters that's being filed, which is another $5,250, and that doesn't include her time. So, anyway, whenever all this is all added up, we have $19,650, and that's subtracted out of that $25,400, which means at this moment, of all that $47,000 we received, we have $6,000 to play with. And that does not include that $28,500. So total is $34,500. And like I said, our monthly expenditures are mostly roughly about $9,000 on average a month. So that gives us about 4 months to play with, so to speak, if we don't get any more checks in. And I'm hoping, like I said, we only have 40% at this point in time. We are asking for checks and money orders. A lot of people want to pay that, like in the past, their credit cards via the phone. Since nobody's in an office answering the phones, we did cancel our merchant services. We had a deal that was over $100, and we didn't even use it. So it was just costing us more money. So we did cancel that. We did take all the cash that was in there, so we don't have any cash to give you back any change. If you're willing to pay you cash like that, so I'm asking you to please can do a check or a money order. You know, I keep telling this on the other board as well, but it's like if you mail it, you can mail it to the LTHOA 35894 Al Drive. I have this memorized. Park Hill 74451, or there is a door slot next, the mail slot next to the door in the office, and you can put it in there. I'm the only one that said he wants to make sure it's safe. I am the only one who picks this up. I'm the only one that's right now that I know of has a key to the mailbox, which is locked. You can also drop it in there if you prefer, which I kind of do that as well. Going back to the February Treasury report, we've already spent more than some of the budgeted items. For example, when we had problems with the heater, we didn't understand what was wrong with that. We had propane delivered, and that was over $200 because of the cost of the fuel. We're going to be reassessing the budget. I just want to make sure that whatever we spend, that it's no longer going to be more than what we receive. And I don't know what we will or won't have to be going back through and getting votes on to change the amounts. On the Appfolio, so once we actually get this started, which right now is on schedule, we have scheduled classes to do this next month, and they're looking to be online May 1st. Unfortunately, that didn't capture our timeline for when we pay our dues. But when we get that set up, you will have a portal. You'll have the architectural control form. You can maintain your own addresses. If you change your address or change your email address, you can change all of that. Meeting notices, if we haven't discussed this in detail yet, but like if we are able to tell you guys, you know, kind of like a newsletter and or what's happened in this meeting, that sort of type stuff. As mentioned earlier, I'm preparing a lien list. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. I will be presenting this to Kevin and to the board, and The Appfolio will also do a, collections, and it's based on a percentage. So we don't actually have to pay Appfolio for that, they will just take a percentage out of whatever they claim for us. Just to give you an example, oh, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew this too. If you are purchasing a lot, please make sure the dues are paid up, or you negotiate that with the new owner or the seller, because we have had multiple people that unfortunately did the sale beforehand, before we actually voted, and or after we voted and didn't know it, and they are having to pay those dues. I have a, thing that I've looked up, it's Oklahoma State Law, Title 60, Section 852-854, which says that if the dues are not paid up, these past dues amounts will be the new owner's responsibility. I do wanna say that liens do work. I had a title company send me an email and asking me to verify their dues, and I pulled it up and there was a lien against it, and there was almost $10,000 worth of past dues on it, and it was only filed for $600 and something, but it also added with interest, and so we are capturing that, or else they're not getting the refinance. I did cancel, well, I have not canceled. I have changed the new email address. It's going to be LTHPOA@gmail. It's exactly the same, except for fullnet.net is now gmail.com. And that's because that was charging us $5, I know that's not a lot, per month. And, there's no need for us to be paying for an email address when it's free. There will be a gradual forward. Right now, I have contacted them, they are doing an automatic forward, so it's capturing everybody who does send it to the full net to send over to the new one, and then I'll be applying out of here so that they'll know that that's when they need to go to. I'm going to skip the tree fund and then the discussion vote on that. I just wanted to give you a quick update on how much debt back dues that we've received so far. This month alone, I received $3,500. I have an additional $650 that's supposed to be coming in the mail next week. I total for the year, $5,556.36. Besides that $650 that I already told you about, I have another additional $775 that's supposed to be paid when he makes it back in town, actually country. And I know that there's at least 2 different other individuals, when theirs is combined together, owes $1,000, and that's on the purchasing of lots, unfortunately, that had the back dues already owned on it. And then I wanted to update where I've had people asking me, so are we ever going to recover that $1750 that, was taken in the month of January when our office manager stepped out? And I just wanted to update where I was at on that. I did file a statement with the county sheriffs in January. And since her nationality, it's been sent to the Cherokee Nation. Sorry. I have talked to the Attorney General representative for the Cherokee Nation, told that it was given to one of their lawyers to review, and I should receive an update in approximately 2 weeks on how they're gonna proceed with that. And then that pretty much gets me back to the tree fund. We had $131, why, I don't know, but it was given to the office to hold into their safe, which had nothing to do with the POA because it was donated money. It was to buy a tree for Jim Oden, who was a past president and has passed. Apparently they did buy a tree, it did die. I don't know if they were collecting to put a new one in, or what the $130 was just left over for something, I honestly don't know. We had been contacted by his relatives, brother and sister-in-law, and then I also spoke to his widow, and so just trying to figure out now at this point what we wanna do with that money.
Right, okay, so, and to bring everybody up to speed on that, there were a couple of small, items that were by previous boards, so this wasn't one person or a bunch of individuals that made things up. Along the way, several years, several of these little funds were, voted on, nominated on, and we thought it'd be a good idea to help support those particular causes. All that's great, and well during that time, but they did it in cash. Petty cash is what they called it, and it was held in the safe. and let's be realistic, a safe keeps honest people honest, right? So the safe disappears, if someone's a break in there, weather storm, who knows what, all that's gone. The days of operating in cash for a association has gone by the wayside years ago. So to try to account for all those monies, and knowing that we didn't have a staff member in that office, we made the decision that it was best to make that fund, all of those funds earmarked, so we have it on our budget, we know what's in there for each of those items, and put it into the general fund account, so at least it's accountable. So if something happens and Becky steps away, I step away, any board members step away, somebody opens up a computer ledger and boom, it's there. You know exactly what's there. There's no question about it and where it came from. Does that make sense? That's why we did it that way. Since then, we had some disgruntled folks that didn't understand why we, in their mind, thinking it was commingling of money. That was not the intention. The intention is, again, trying to keep honest people honest. So we had earmarked those funds. So now that we understand people get upset by us trying to make an accountability section for it, let's just do the right thing. And if it was made for a fund and somebody wants to do a memorial or wants to start up something, that person needs to be in charge of that and not us as the board. So that way it just eliminates the liability, it eliminates anybody from being disgruntled. If someone wants to donate to that cause, they understand where it's going. It's not our individual responsibility to hold someone else's idea and at the same time be accountable for it and have anybody upset. So with that said, that was previous years before we came along. But the easiest way for us to do it is to go back and do away with these items that the board is actually holding. That doesn't mean that their memory is lost. That means that we're giving the money back to the individuals that created it and letting them be responsible for it. They want to carry it on, so be it. And we're all about it. We're gonna support those individuals wholeheartedly. So we're starting with this one. There was, I think 3 different small funds that were in there. And we're going back to those individuals. They're going to be the ones that's held accountable for it. So if anybody has any questions, they know who to contact. So with that said, I would like to have a motion that the board itself does away with the tree fund and that we give the money back to the family members, allowing them to be in charge of their family's tree fund. Okay? Understanding that, just like everything else that we've done throughout since this board has come on, is to make sure that before we give money, before we collect money, before we give an architectural form approval, before we allow a sale to go through and we're contacted to make sure those people are in good standing. Does that make sense? So that's my, to bring that to the board's attention, but I want your input on your thoughts of all the funds together, number one, and then individualize this particular tree fund and how you think it needs to transpire.
I have a question regarding that.
Yes, sir.
I've worked on a lot of benefit programs before in my past, and if monies are given to like a tree fund or something like that, I don't believe legally you can give it back to the homeowner or to that person unless you give all the monies back that has been donated to the individuals that don't. Do we have a list of who donated?
So yeah, here's the whole thing. And so to bring everybody again back up to speed. So there was a safe in the office with a half-a-page piece of paper that said this amount of petty cash for these funds. Does anybody understand that, who could change that piece of paper out? How do we know that that's really there? What was the accountability before that? So there was zero accountability. My point is, for us to say, okay, this is what we have been handed as a board. There's nothing in, for example, changing of bylaws, putting something in there, restrictions, etc. But where we know that this is what it was created, this individual's in charge of that, whether it's the president, whether it's, who's ever over, roads, security, that individual knows that they also are going to be taking that responsibility on. There was no responsibility, there was no person in charge of, nothing left on any of these committees. There was just earmarked, this money is for that. There's no who gave it, there was no who's in charge of it, nothing's there. So we go back to the members to get our information, but we understand how this goes. My goodness, I sleep every night, sometimes my wife doesn't, but I do. And understanding that, I forget the day before what I ate, much less what I did, 20 years ago or 10 years ago to try to start something. So, to keep that accountability ledger, my point is, instead of saying Becky needs to be in charge of it, instead of saying James needs to be in charge of it, my point is, we're just moving who is accountable for that particular fund. It's not saying we're doing away with it, we're saying the board's not responsible for these funds anymore.
So if we give it back to the brother, apparently, it's his responsibility to see that it's put into his deceased brother's memorial.
Absolutely.
It's not something where he's just
et
gonna go
cetera.
out.
It
How
has-
do we have evidence that he's gonna do that? Do we care what he does with it?
Well, so this is
that
what we're,
saying?
right, that's what we're talking about
Okay.
right now. And
Once we relinquish that to him, we are no longer
Sure.
responsible for any of
Sure.
that? Okay.
Or even that, and that family, are they?
Just as long as it's known that we are recognizing the fact that we're turning that memorial fund over to the family, their responsibility
To be
is
in
to
charge of
see
it.
that it's handled appropriately.
100%.
So if anybody wants to question it's donated money, if I'm understanding this
Correct.
correctly, they can go to the family, not come to us,
That's
about how
correct.
that money was handled.
That is correct.
I'm all for that as long as we're not involved in it.
That's right.
We're relinquishing our responsibilities.
Right.
That sounds good.
Okay, well, that was the question that was brought, to be brought up or to help being answered. But again, going forward, everybody also, whoever is in charge of any of these items, the board's responsibility also is to make sure that every person that we're having, involved in this particular board or any fund, and we're bringing folks on that are gonna be in charge of other committees, et cetera, they have to be in good standing with the board. Okay, that's again according to our bylaws. So, with that said, that would be the only other thing that needs to be attached, in my opinion, with, no matter what we do with these funds or what everybody else votes on, those people need to be in good standing, which are done.
With the funds, there's $130, $131, we know how much that is.
Right.
If that money is spent on a tree, what happens to that fund? Will it just, dissolve if the balance is zero? Will somebody replenish it, or?
Well, that's my point. Everything, it's not the board's. We didn't create it. We can't take dues money and create something that's a fund. This was a donated, again, going back and trying to find what minutes that we can for those items. It was a donated, fund in a memory of a past, board member. And that money was donated to set up that tree and to be responsible for it, to help keep it. Well, that tree had since, unfortunately, whether it's weather, regardless, but that tree's no longer with us on the property, but the fund is.
It's not money that we're gonna even do anything, I mean, because the only thing we can do is go buy another tree.
Correct.
Don't, and,
Make
and,
another
and,
suggestion.
Or something that won't die. I mean, quite frankly, like a plant or something.
we can buy another tree and donate and plant it in his name and, let it know that that money was spent for that. And
But who's gonna be responsible for doing that? I'd like to make another suggestion if I possibly could.
That's what, it's open, you bet.
Okay, so I don't, how do I say this? I don't know why it would be specifically needing to go to a brother and sister-in-law versus the widow.
We're just saying family member.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
that's.
So I meant, when he said brother, I was just wanting to clarify that.
that's the problem, we don't know who to give it to.
Right,
And
So-
if we planted a tree and said, this is Jim Oden tree, and it's in the park, and we make it known that that money was spent for a tree and some mulch, and,
Well, that's where you get into some legal issues here is when you try to, when money is donated for benevolence fund, memorial fund, whatever, that money by law has to go to whatever it was donated toward. And if somebody takes the money and utilizes it for something else, that's kind of a form of embezzlement in a way. I mean, it goes on all the time with people having that. I just wanna make sure whatever we do with it, we are doing it in the form to where the board is not accountable, or the community here is not accountable for how that money is utilized once we relinquish that money to whoever we give it
tree
to.
fund for
Correct.
Jim Oden.
The whole thing is, these funds weren't set up to where there was, okay, and with that, we want this person in charge, someone needs to sign off on it. It was just held, cash in a safe. So again, I get it, it would be, there's, just like, you know, the stuff that we have here in the harbor that, you know, you and Dee Dee will get to in a second too. I mean, she's out there, hey, bring this stuff, we're gonna have, you know, for the kids, the Easter egg hunt, well, awesome idea. But at the same time, we gotta have somebody that needs to be held accountable for that.
Sure.
Right, and so if you're giving that money or giving that time to it, at least the community knows that's where it's going and you're able to see it. But it's not on the board to say, well, the board did X with that money. Because we're here to do what is collected on dues and be responsible for dues money. And pay it. So this is nothing to do with members and the dues that are collected for us to be responsible for buying, planning, et cetera, and upsetting somebody that wasn't done properly. There was no rules and regulations mandated for funds.
So what your suggestion is giving it to the family, which.
I'm just saying it needs to be
family
out of the
member or-
board's hands. I'm
Yeah.
asking the board, you know, what your suggestions are, we need to make that decision though.
So can I finish on that one thing here? I just wanna let you know. So there's like a, long story short is, apparently whenever Jim was still alive, Jim Odin and Sherry were still married, they had several lots out here. And after he passed, she started selling different lots, and I know it's kinda complicated somewhat, but it's like, in the accounting system that we have as of present, that last number is how many lots you have / votes, right? And
Right.
each time that if you like, say you're 4 and you sell one, now you're at 3, you actually have to go into the system, you have to delete that account out, you gotta create a new account with the 3 on the end of it, because that puts you in a certain billing group to get charged for 3. Well, over the years, she sold this lot and added this lot and sold this lot. Long story short, she ended up having 2 accounts in our system for some reason, accidentally. She was paying on one lot, she was not paying on the second lot, and the second lot was in Jim Odin's name, in our system. And so, unfortunately, it was not paid on since 2016. It has over $800 of back dues on it. She has made a half of the payment, over $400 so far against that. I have spoken to her as well and said, I was gonna bring this to you guys and ask y'all what y'all thought, is what if we took that money and just put it towards Jim Odin's dues that he had paid out here, since it's already in our account.
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with that, it's not a memorial.
That's not the purpose of that fund.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion is, the best thing we do is go buy a tree, call it a Jim Odin tree, and take pictures of it, put it on the website, and disband the funds. I mean, just zero out the fund, and that's what, if there's a tree fund, then let's buy another tree and buy some mulch and.
Okay,
What's that?
is that the net fund?
No,
$131.
Oh, it's not the net fund?
Yeah, that was for the tree fund. I don't have the exact amounts in front of me right now for the social group fund, which is what I would prefer that we get, when we get to that point, to give to Dee Dee, for her social group, and I know, when we get to that
Well,
point.
this one right now needs to be, we need to,
So who do we give it to though?
okay, well, that's what we're discussing. Is there, what's the options right now? One option is buy a tree. One is return to family. And one suggestion was to pay dues,
Take that off.
okay? So understanding of these 3, I heard 3 of you already say that you're not, in favor of putting it towards dues, is that correct?
I disagree with that.
Okay, so, 3 out of 5 people, so that would be done. So then we have the 2 left, either buy the tree with the money and put it in his honor, show everything that it was done with, or return to family. Those are the 2 options, sounds like it's on the
If we
table.
buy a tree, we probably still had money left over, we still have to figure out what to do with the extra. Have you bought a tree lately?
I'm more-
Around 135 exactly, I mean, you should have some change left over or something.
I'm feeling like that you're gonna have to add money
Take another
to
chair.
it,
Yeah.
honestly.
She did make a suggestion that he liked hydrangeas, if you wanna go something to that effect, that the other tree died because it was a dogwood or something to that effect, that's very complicated to grow.
Yeah, you can find a tree for pretty close to $130, and if it's a little bit more, yeah, we can handle that.
Do we need to get a plaque or something made that says?
There's already one out
Oh,
there.
there is one out there.
Yeah, and the bench
Well,
is already out there as well.
you know, I personally feel that from my experience working with these type of funds,
Mhm.
is if we do that in his honor of what it was originally set to do, then we're following the guidelines that it was intended to be done, and therefore it's being, all the
Okay.
parties that donated the money toward that, it's going into his honor, and that way somebody else is not allowing it to be utilized in a different means
Okay,
of spending that. I mean, that, cause it, you just don't mess around with memorial fund money.
Okay.
I mean, you just don't, donated money's gotta be used for what it's donated for.
anybody else have anything to add with that?
I know in Fayetteville, you can call, Westwood Gardens and buy a tree and tell them what you want and, put a flag in your yard and they'll come plant it for you. So, you know, a phone call that somebody in LTHOA, and they're there, might do the same thing.
Yeah.
Who wants to be responsible for doing the tree? Maybe not.
We get, profit
I'll,
out.
I'll make some phone calls.
Full park, so, we need a motion at this point that the remainder of the money is going to be, used to purchase a tree in Jim Oden's honor, for that tree fund and plant it in the same location.
I will make a motion that, I make that motion that we use that money to plant a tree for Jim Oden, and then when the money is, when the fund is empty and zero balance, then we dissolve the fund.
Okay,
That's it.
we have a motion on the floor, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, so that passes. So we are gonna put, with that, if you don't mind, the piggy bank, excuse me, we're adding James Keith to that.
Yeah,
to make
I'll
sure.
make some phone calls next week, to send it to the nursery in Tahlequah and see what we can get, and, if it's $125 for a tree and it's planted, then we can buy $10 worth of mulch, and we can zero out that fund, and we can
When
use it
you,
for what it was intended for.
Get ready to plan or something, let me know and I'll assist with that. I can pick up.
Yep, and if you don't mind, guys, with that too, if you'll, when, and I'll be happy to help, well, if you let me know when, and then we just can take some photos, pictures, we'll do a public, let folks know, so that way if we have proof, it's in the minutes one, and we have proof of what's being done, we'll also bring back whatever the purchase receipt was to show them proof of such.
Sounds,
Sounds good.
that's the correct way of being handled.
Okay, so with that, the next fund being,
I don't have the exact amount here with me because it's in the safe, but we do have the social group fund
Correct.
/ food pantry fund.
okay,
And they did not equal what the amount said it was supposed to have been on the envelope. So, and it wasn't all that much, but it was a couple $300, give or take. And I'd like to suggest, since Dee Dee is over the social group, which is event coordinator, which is pretty much the same thing as what the social groups were doing, that we donate that money to her to continue on with the social group activities and food pantry stuff.
okay. So, again, once again, this is another fund, gentlemen, so we brought to what Becky has,
What
told
kind
us.
of, was it like a women's fund or a?
Social group, I
fund?
don't know for exactly, I'm sure there's people in here that are more
It
familiar with
dissolves
that.
it, is
It
that what-
dissolved itself, it had nothing to do with the POA. They did pancake breakfast things, ice cream socials,
And
different
we
things
have
like
Dee
that.
Dee now she's kinda doing
Kinda
the
doing the
event
same
center
thing,
type thing
more or
for
less,
us.
right.
Activities. Just thinking logically here, I don't see where that would be a conflict of interest by us moving that money forward into the fund, as long as it's going toward the community. That's what that kind of money is donated.
Are there still people donating to this, or is it kind of stagnant?
No, not to that exact, no, Dee Dee's doing everything on her own. In fact, she's been putting a lot of her own money in.
And individuals, I know several that are here have all been trying to donate directly to Dee Dee, now instead of trying to call a
Yeah.
board member or drop something off at the office, et cetera. At least there's accountability for that and someone in charge of that particular fund, and so if,
Might ought to ask her, would you be willing to?
I've been
take that?
keeping all the records of everything everybody gives me, plus I keep it on Facebook by messaging and back and forth, so See what I'm saying? I thank everybody, I record it, and then I also have it, stuff screenshotted,
You maintain receipts for it?
I have every
Just
receipt
okay.
from Dollar Tree, everything.
As long
I
as
have
you
a
got all
bag.
that covered, I don't see a problem.
I'm a little
As long as you
OCD
verify.
about it.
As long as you're willing to do that, you
Yeah.
take
I,
responsibility for that, so.
Okay.
I'm for it. I mean, I don't see any legal issues that we would be up against on something like that. Just-
And I don't mind giving, I've done my reports. I actually finally got Words instead of Google documents, so y'all can open it when I send you my stuff.
Okay. At that point, any more discussion on this, or you think everybody in the same agreement about putting Dee Dee in charge of that and moving that fund from the board office safe to Dee Dee and then she can not only just update us on a monthly basis, shooting messages, emails, etc. Sure.
I could actually start a bank account for free where it's just not in that little bag that I keep. That we had to get change out of for Thanksgiving out in the
Fine.
parking lot.
We can put a notice even on our actual webpage that lets you put a contact for you on there. People can
I've
just
had
click on it.
people PayPal money for
That's my point.
Thanksgiving.
So if they can click on that and contact you directly and understand that that's going for that social fund coordinator.
Yep.
And it'll just be a different account, not my house account, just another Dee Dee account.
Okay.
The key is, as long as you've got evidence of what comes in and what goes out, that's what you have to maintain.
Yeah.
Just in case you get audited or something like that, so.
Well, I think the best part about it is at least there's a point of contact now, and it's not cash in a safe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sound good?
So we
Yes.
need a motion to
Okay,
do that.
we need that motion to move that money from the, social fund that's in the safe, that's earmarked for that,
It's actually
approximately.
in our checking account, but
Well,
I
but
had the amount.
I'm
In the
going,
safe.
stating back that it
Yes.
was also in
It
the
was
safe,
in the
but it was
safe.
earmarked, we have an account now, but it's earmarked roughly around $300, it's on our, last month's budget that everybody saw. But it's earmarked there that we're actually gonna do away with that, fund and the board holding it, and that we are, putting that to Dee Dee, who is in charge of the actual social group fund now. So if that motion, could I get somebody to
I'll say,
make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, James make that motion, second. All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Thank you, Dee Dee, for taking that on, and we
I'll
appreciate
get
all the
you
work.
an exact amount.
And we'll work on it.
And if you don't mind for that,
It'll be in the meeting minutes.
yep, we
the
can make a,
exact amount.
yep, we can make a note for that, that we put the exact amount in the minutes that she is getting to. Okay. All right, did we have another fund in there, ma'am?
Well, I was kind of combining that with the food pantry, cause
Yes.
it was like about $10-15 or something like that. It wasn't, I mean, it didn't match what was supposed to have been in there.
Right,
And so,
okay.
I was just might combine it all.
So do we
since
have a
it's-
pantry box? Is this what the idea of it was kind of a
I
pantry
have not
box?
a clue.
That-
It was just a little note.
This
It
was
said food
before the
pantry.
box came along. It was actually here, from my understanding, and, for the members or folks that had, hard times or a loved one passed or something, and people donated for that and took food to the families, et cetera, in the past. That was kind of my understanding, but at the same time, now that we have an event coordinator that's in charge of that, we can put that information on our website, et cetera, for them to contact. So those two funds then will be gone away. So that was the three quote funds, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we are no longer cash in a safe.
Right.
Outstanding. No. No. All right. Did that clear you out, Miss Becky, or do you
Yes.
have more?
I think that pretty much done. It's just the fact, like I said, email addresses I really need.
Yep.
And, oh, I do have one other thing. I'm sorry. It's not, so to speak, financial wise, but, I don't even know what I did with it here. But
If you're gonna talk with me, you gotta talk about much.
This is a form that I gave to Kevin, and I don't know, maybe I've already given it to you, about new lots. There's a new form going to be eventually put out on the webpage.
This is on our handout, is what you're referring to?
I think so, but anyway, it's a form that just says a new lot owner. If you could please make sure that you get that filled out and turned back in, you can email it to me, you can put it in the door slot for me, thank you, yes.
Yep.
It will tell me who is the new owner, and I can contact that person and get all their information so that they will be able to get the portal set up in their name and out of the old owner's name. So please give me your information.
Outstanding. Okay. Thank you.
Yay.
Man,
Mine
look
was
at that.
short.
Record time.
Yep, in less than 1 hour, you're welcome, members. Okay, next, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here, if you guys don't mind, Architectural Control Committee. From last month, we'd actually reached out and made notifications that we were looking for members. The Architectural Control Committee, according to our bylaws, states that 1 board member has to be on there and 2 members that are in good standing. So at the same time, we put that notification out there. I had 3 individuals actually reach back out to me. At the same time, of those, the 2 that I talked with personally, I want to put up to the board for you guys to approve. I'm not sure if both of them are here. I see Zach is here. Zach Mode and Jeff Perry have volunteered to do so. They've got Jeff is and Zach both actually have a residence in here that they're pretty much here, about 70% of the time anyway. They've got lives and work and other places that they have to be involved with, but at least we have other folks that can be here. And so at the point of that, what will happen with these 2 members jumping on board is it's not coming directly just to 1 person. In the past, that's how the board had been running it. It was just 1 person more or less taking over and saying yes or no. A little bit too much, for 1 person to say, yes, you can do something, or no, you can't. Then it's too much for us, because I'll go through this and show you, just to give you an example, in the last couple of weeks, how many people that have actually applied to get stuff put into our harbor. So understanding that, it's not to try to tell the board every time somebody is here to take up their time of day before we can get an individual recognized, or we can have these 3 members. Somebody's probably going to be on site between 3 of us that can check something out if it's need be. We have our Harbor Patrol that can also help us if we need that. They are the ones that also have been letting me know, are you aware of this individual moving something in or out? So it's going to be a lot easier for us to have a control of that, and then one of us of that team will be the one still signing off on those forms. But all 3 of us collectively will be doing that voting to say if they have an issue or not, or it's not just 1 person. We're going to go back to the way our bylaws state, by having those 3 individuals. So I would like to make a recommendation to the board that we accept these 2 individuals, Zach Moe and Jeff Perry, to be put on the Architectural Committee along with myself.
I'll make that motion.
Outstanding. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion with that? All right. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, gentlemen, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, next we're gonna discuss, we had an individual that owned lot B-163 that had also was in past dues beyond arrears. And so Ms. Becky had reached out to all those that have been that way and sent them letters and given them the option, number 1, begging them to go ahead and do their due diligence and pay their fees and amounts that are owed. If not, asking them to do one of the 2 things, either if they would sell their property for the amount that's owed on it, and to see if they'd be willing to do that, or relinquish the actual lot back to the board, which is the way the bylaws have stated. And in doing that, that particular individual decided that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to relinquish that lot back to the board. We have made arrangements for that. We've sent the deeds to them to do so, along with a release of lien to that individual. They signed that back over to us. Ms. Becky went down and with a few words with our courthouse had that recorded. And so now we are in possession as far as legal title with the Bowmans on this lot B-163. So just to let everyone know what our intention is here, I need to also get with, or have you guys approve. If you want me to abstain, I can, but at the same time, this is what I actually do this for a living, if y'all don't know, to list and sell, and I wouldn't charge the board to actually represent the board in listing and selling. Just wanna make sure if there's a conflict of interest, understand, we can find another individual. But me holding a real estate license in the state of Oklahoma, we have to still make notification if I'm the one that's gonna be signing off as the president. By the state laws, we have to notify that I hold a real estate license regardless if it's gonna go through our company or not. Does that make sense? So one of two things, it either has to be voted on that, we have another member that is willing to sign off on those deeds, or if you guys still want me to represent the board and run it through a company side or for sale by owner, for example, but I still have to make notice to whoever's purchasing that I'm still a licensed real estate broker.
James Depute is also eligible to vote, to sign contracts in your absence.
Okay, so that, understanding that, it's whatever the board wants. I'm not here to do anything but other to give, expertise, to let you know my personal opinions on values, what I personally would do, not just the same seats that you guys are in. Whether you want to run it through a company, or if you wanna run it through for sale by owner, with having the Lake Taylor Harbor Owners Association sign made of for sale by owner, doesn't matter to us, or to me, on how you want to handle it, but we need to make arrangements for this year, how it's gonna be handled.
I personally don't see that being a conflict of interest at all, for the fact that you're not receiving any pay for what you're doing, like, as long as there's no monies exchanged on your profit side.
Sure.
Therefore, I don't see it being a conflict of interest.
I think it would be best, I mean, you have a good company, you have a reputable company, and that would be a good way to advertise that and a good way to sell it. And as long as there's no, you're not being paid for your services, I wouldn't have a problem with your company listing it and doing the paperwork and doing the closing. That way we know it would be done.
I would add to that, if I recall the bylaws on that, let's say if you're advertising it, you should be reimbursed for any kind of advertisement costs that you incurred in order to process it. You could get reimbursed for the advertisement, because that's not something you're making profit on.
Well,
It'd be expenses that are incurred.
right.
I believe that's how that's
Yes.
read, isn't it, Becky?
It,
You're knowledgeable on all of that.
it does say for any
You are
board member.
compensated for any expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's related to the harbor.
To the harbor.
Right.
And so therefore, I don't see that, if it's costing you money to do something, you should get reimbursed for it.
Well, here's, in a nutshell, if everybody remembers, if you've bought and sold real estate before, you list something with a brokerage, there is a commission obviously paid to, or a listing fee that's out there. That listing fee can be split between the listing agent and the selling agent. So if we listed it through our company, understand that a buyer's agent is gonna expect some form of compensation. Okay, so doesn't matter what other company sells it, but in their mind, they're gonna expect the compensation. Does that make sense? So if we put one of our signs out there, that's the assumption that a buyer's agent is gonna think that they can bring a buyer and actually gonna be able to get paid for that property. Now, again, I'm willing to do my side for nothing, but if there's a fee that needs to be charged to them, we still have to pay that fee.
And that comes out of the
Comes
cost
out
of
of
the.
That is correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that you don't hold all of the costs.
Oh, no, and I appreciate it, but again, this is just I don't want anybody thinking I'm in this position trying to, gain a couple $100 on what it would take to sell a lot in Lake Taylor Harbor, so.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
I'm willing to donate my time, I guess is what I'm stating, on what would come on my side.
We know it'd be done correctly.
I think that would be good.
That's good.
When, do we have access to do we have the right to sell it now, or is
Okay,
there a
yeah,
timeline?
so here's the next thing, so understanding too, again, my suggestion that we make this notification that we're not granting, and advertising that we hold equitable title and clear title. Let me back up, we hold equitable title, we don't hold clear title. We didn't do a title search, okay, on anything. If you guys understand how a lot of lots in this subdivision have worked over the years, several people have bought and sold and owner financed and bought tax sales, et cetera, et cetera. The only way to get clear titles through a title company with a title search and somebody having title insurance. So we can have those expenditures if you so desire, but then you're gonna have them again when you sell them, if you so desire. If not, my suggestion is, just like 90% of the ones that are in here that are sold with, a quick claim deed. And if the individual wants to get title, and they want to pay for a title search, and they want title insurance, with it, we suggest that that individual pay for that, and then not the board, create that expense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once anybody is in an equitable title holder at that point, if they want to, a quiet title suit, if there's any issues on there, they can pay for that, and again, that's still another way for them to get clear title in the event that there's an issue. The only thing that we're granting and guaranteeing is, if the board had ever set a lien for any reason on there, that we guarantee that we were going to release all of our equity in that property when it's sold. Does that make sense? So if there was a lien, on there, we're guaranteeing that we're gonna sign a lien release regardless of what the property's sold for. And that one individual, even if it's myself and you guys, take this on as far as saying, all right, Kevin, we want you to do this, and you're gonna set a price on a lot, we get an offer on that lot, we still have to have all 5 board members to agree to sell that lot for whatever that offer is.
I think that's great, because that hasn't been happening.
You are correct. So we're gonna go by what, again, the bylaw states and how it's to be done and handled. I'll be happy to take that on. I just wanna, again, we need, a motion for your permission to do so. And in doing that, if I'm gonna be taking this on, that the other lots that are actually owned, in the harbor's name, that you allow me to go ahead and do an assessment for all of those lots, because obviously we understand out here some lots are more valuable than others. Location and sometimes the levelness, and if they have utilities, et cetera, we'll be able to determine those, and I can get that list for you, and give you that, my estimate of what I think those lot values are worth, and then you give me, at that point, the freedom to list those in the harbor's name and for the harbor.
We have approximately 4, I think,
Right.
in our name that is eligible to be sold.
Okay.
That's awesome.
At the same time, as far as, in handling these, if we have an order of precedence on how it's to be done. So for example, regardless of what, a lot of public perception is, I made an offer on that property, you can't do anything with it until I get an answer. Well, that's not true. So you understand, as far as our particular, laws are governed, if it's listed with a real estate agent, now I can tell you how that happens. Somebody makes an offer, to us, then we let them know that we have to have full board approval, number one. But if you listed that property for X amount of days, for example, we're gonna list this property for 10 days, and then the board's gonna take the best offer in accordance to the board. So for example, if somebody's obtaining a loan and wants to offer, let's just give an example on a lot, let's say a lot was $5,000, and we listed it for 10 days, and we got 4 offers on there. One of them was for $500 over asking, and they're paying cash, versus somebody who's obtaining a loan, and offered $100 over. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
But regardless, we have to look at the offer itself. Is it cash? Are they willing to accept a quick claim deed? Are they wanting, whatever, but I'll propose all this to you. But my suggestion is per lot that you put a time frame on it and have all bids submitted by that time frame, which in my opinion would be when we're gonna have a board meeting. So we can set and go over each month, whether we have an offer or not. If we have multiple, I can let you know what those are, what your decisions are.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good?
Do I need to make a motion for that?
Need to make two things. Number one, need to make a motion, if you don't mind, that, you allow myself to actually represent the harbor in the selling of the lots that we have during my tenure, period. So after my tenure, which to let you know, if, July comes and, all of you sitting out there decide that you wanna set this seat, I will happily stand up and let you have it. So, that will be our next thing to go over. But if we have a motion out there that that the board allows me to present you the sale of the lots that we have currently on hand.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, so with that said, those slots, I'll get that back to you, so we can get those on the market once we get that approval for this next board meeting. Sound good? All right. Next, the question that we had again about, I think the guard shack that was brought up in the question, I actually put that out there as well for the members, if anybody had any questions. I actually received several, and I appreciate the feedback, that you guys had sent. There were several, I think, that we either emailed to Becky, I've gotten a text message, personally, and then contacted, emails, et cetera, to the board that, have stated, number one, they do not want to see the guard shack go away. I know that we actually own that particular piece of property that's there, and we own the guard shack itself. The feedback that I was given, in a nutshell, I think there was about 12, if I'm not mistaken, different individuals that contacted us solely on that one thing. And of those 12, 8 pretty much said the same thing, that they feel like it is a deterrent for those that come in that are not from here, that see that, and immediately think, uh-oh, this may be a place that, you know, we're not gonna be able to come in here and just willy-nilly or try to, you know, rob, steal anybody, et cetera, do mischief. So I taking this to heart, I understand that it is, quote, an asset, or could we sell it to get some money back? But again, we don't own this, it's the members. I really feel like we need to listen to the members. Now, whether we try to maybe get a crew of volunteers together to help doctor that thing back up a little bit and dress it up and take some of the things down on it where it's not so busy. We own that corner, so maybe we can do something of that nature, if that helps. But as far as doing away with it, my motion is, because of the feedback that I've received, would be to leave the guard shack in its state and position. And again, that's out of all the owners, 12 of you reached out, 8 of you said you wanted to leave it. So I appreciate your feedback, but I'm just reporting back to you what I was given. So at this time, if y'all would like to discuss any more about it, I'll be happy to listen. If you wanna speak to our harbor patrol to see if they have any input on that as well, or what your thoughts are, James?
When we brought that forward, we were asked to look at ways that we could save money.
Mm-hmm.
And the patrol made that address that we didn't need that facility. It's not being utilized. Matter of fact, it does need to be cleaned, and you know, it's got maintenance issues and stuff like that. So we were looking at it as being a harbor inconvenience as far as maintaining it. We have no problem if the community wants to keep it. I'm okay with that. We were just looking at ways to make money.
Here's another suggestion, and the reason I say that is because I told when I finally get feedback, because sometimes we'll ask and we get nothing. The other times we get bombarded of stuff that has no matter and no meaning to the board. But then this one, when you have the questions get proposed, and we put it out to the public and you get 12 people respond, hey, at least we had some. Understanding of that response. The only other thing, if it's people want to see it, we know that our yearly voting is coming up. We can put anything we want to on a ballot. If these people want to see that truly say, you want to get the one time a year that you're going to get the most people to truly vote and agree to something, if we want to put it on the ballot, whether we keep the guard shack or whether we dispose of it, just because it's if it's going to be a maintenance issue and it's going to be an ongoing expense, it's out of somebody's time and pocket to keep it up. But as you see, I know Rosie and Don and others have spent countless hours and their time and their money helping clean some of the signs and things up that's been through here, and it didn't go unnoticed, and we appreciate you guys so much for doing so. But I don't want to feel like I'm pushing something like that onto someone else too, just to take it on. But if we need to put it on a vote for the ballot, so be it. If you feel that need, if not, if you feel like we just need to keep it as is for now.
It's a great idea, I think just let the members vote on it in July or June when we go, and everybody's here casting their vote, it'll be a private vote or,
Yeah, and it would be good too that some of these that want to keep it and maintain it, help with the maintenance of it, the mowing of it, and planting flowers around it.
I did call Lake Region Electric and get the power shut off.
We're gonna give you your moment in just a second, sir. You wait your turn. At any rate, so the next thing, I appreciate that. So at this point, I think we're gonna go ahead and, if you guys don't mind, a motion that we're gonna put the guard shack on the actual voting ballot, whether we dispose of the guard shack or whether we keep it for the community. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes, be on the ballot. With that said, next I need some help putting it back out there to you individuals. If we can get some help with a nominating committee, meaning all the nominations, the nominating committee will be, posting the information to us as the board of you as the community come this June. So all of you, that would like to be on that committee, would you please reach out to us? We have a few that have already reached out, but at the same time, the more of you that want to be on this committee, we would love to have it. And if you as an individual want to be nominated or put yourself up for the board, we would love to have you and love to have your name on a ballot for a vote. Yes,
I'm gonna add something to that when you're done.
sure. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanna emphasize how important the being on a nominating committee actually is and what it actually does. They are responsible for going out and interviewing potential candidates to be on the board, and then they bring that back to the board, and then the board takes their consideration on it, and then that's how they decide, yes, we would prefer to have somebody like that on the board. I just wanna emphasize that, like, my position right now is like, I've been doing all of the office duties and stuff, and then when we're getting this new portfolio, that it is not going to be a 100% on its own operation. There will be maintenance and stuff that has to be taken care of as well. So that person, whoever is wanting to take, I have one more year left unless somebody takes me out. But if they want my position, in other words, that they need to know that it's more than just saying I'm a treasurer or I'm on the board, I'm, over rows. It's, in other words, like, you need to take into consideration, and that person needs to go out and actually interview these people, so to speak, saying, if he wants to be on the board, it's like, okay, so what are your qualifications? Are you willing to be here and take in the responsibility to maintain what we're doing?
So we would love to see your calls, texts, emails in support of being a part of the nominating committee. At the same time, there's actually 3 committees that we have outside the architectural control. There's 3 other committees that we want to go ahead and put out there and ask you as the members in the community to be a part of. All of which I'm going to let you know as follows. Of course, the nominating committee we just talked about. The actual election committee, which is our election that we have every year that happens in July. You're going to stand in here in the air condition, and as folks come in, verify who they are, how many votes they get, make sure that they're in good standing, and we allow them to vote. At the same time, we're going to discuss also about the absentee voting and absentee ballot, which it's this particular, we gotta, let me get the cart before the horse. So we have those 2 particular committees, one other committee, which is a bylaw committee, and restrictions committee that needs to be formed to look at our bylaws. They were updated just a few years ago, like in 1995. So understanding, like, the biggest thing right now, we have the ability to put this form, for example, on the absentee ballot out on our website. Well, this wasn't able to be done in years past, but if that person wanted to print that particular absentee ballot off and they wanted to sign in how they had it, have it notarized, and it mailed back and it was received here by the time that the voting actually counted, then their vote would count. Does that make sense? So in today's, or if you read our bylaws, it states that people have to call in, we have to mail them the actual absentee ballot. So Pony Express, if it gets there in time to them and it gets back to us in time, and then there's been several times that those votes come in and it's after the fact, but that's not our fault. But to help speed up that process, our bylaws need to be changed so that we can allow that absentee ballot to be printed off the internet. And yes, could anybody truly sign that? Let's be realistic. Well, if it's notarized, who's the one that's liable? Is it the board? No, it's the notary. So if there is an issue of that sort, at least we have a paper trail of why. But it's just a suggestion, so that way it helps get more people to have the ability to vote. You don't have to be here in person. But I think it helps encourage to get more people out to get at the things that are having done by the board. We have it done by the members on the time that it is to be voted on. So if we have those committees set in place, and again, let me name them again, we got the nominating, the election committee, and a bylaws committee. So I would love for the public, any of you that want to volunteer for 1, 2, or 3, absolutely, please let us know. Email us call us, text us, stop by after this particular meeting, and if you wanna volunteer right now, raise your hand.
I got a question.
Yes, we got a volunteer.
No, we don't.
Oh,
On the bylaws, are you gonna also include the articles in that as well?
well, that's what
That's
we're
what
saying.
it says.
That's-
Okay.
Yeah.
The articles and bylaws.
That's what we have on
Once we
there.
get a committee, then we can like separate them out for bylaws and restrictions, so they both can be worked on at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like there's a whole lot of moving parts here. How do you know what you're volunteering for when you say you're gonna volunteer?
So we have three different committees. A nomination committee, which is just nominating folks that want to take our places come July. Anybody that wants to run for the board. Okay? Then we have the election committee, meaning the day of the election in July that we have every year. All it is as the folks come in to vote, we're verifying, we have a sheet that says these particular people are in good standing. They pay their dues, and there's a number beside their name on how many lots they own for how many votes they get. You're able to hand them that many particular voting sheets. Once it's voted, you're in front of them and they hand them back to you. You're able to say, yep, I actually physically saw those people vote. Now, their votes then go into that ballot box, and you're holding those and more or less being responsible for them just during that one day. And then after the voting closes, you're also responsible for counting those particular votes, giving the results to the board, and then the board actually telling the members. Okay? And then the last one, obviously, that we talked about was the bylaws committee, which is our bylaws, again, were updated in 1995. There's been so much, actually, that's probably the biggest thing that this board has gotten is our members don't really know what's in our bylaws, unfortunately. And so they have a lot of miscommunication from what has happened in the past from board members or who's been in the office or what their neighbor said. They really are taking that to heart versus going online and reading it in black and white. Now, granted, this thing was done in 1995, so it needs to be adjusted. To give you an example, we had a lot of questions about rentals, Airbnbs, owner finance contracts. These things weren't a whole lot pushed in 1995. They are today. So we need to amend those bylaws to add those things. And coming up with somebody with some suggestions, and this is where it needed to be added in those particular bylaws and the covenants themselves. The covenants, understand, in each block that you live in, there's covenants for each block. So do they need to be updated as well? Absolutely. So that's the hope and the suggestion. I'll be happy to sit on any committee to help anybody do it, but I can't do it by myself, and I'm not going to, for the simple fact, I'm not gonna be up here with everybody throwing tomatoes at me saying, man, I don't like what you had to say, and being done with it. But if somebody wants a horse on every lot, hey, yeah, you're the members. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would definitely like to be, consider, what role that the volunteer. I heard what you just said, that's a lot to digest.
I totally understand. All we need that we're asking for is, we're here for the members, but we want you guys to be in charge. And if you have ideas that you'd like to see implemented, this is where it's at. We gotta get you guys to tell us. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Kathy Harry. I volunteer for the bylaws committee. I've had previous experience with a state incorporation similar to this community. So bylaws and stuff. I was on board.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Kathy, after the meeting, would you stay long enough to come and give your information up here to us so we can put you on there? And sir, if you'd like to volunteer for anything as well and talk to you a little bit more, just get your information from you, I'd be happy to get you on board if you'd be willing to do so.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate y'all coming. Appreciate you being a part of it. Anybody have any questions more about those committees and us setting those up? We're making it mainly, we don't have to have a motion, but I'm gonna put it out there that we're asking for those things to be done. We'll make those notifications on our website as well. And if anybody wants to reach back out to us, but hopefully we have those committees formed. I'd like to have them if we can by this time next month, so we can get the ball rolling on those nominations and then people know who is on board for the election. That sound good? All right. Last thing, again, the architectural control forms, mainly, I think, Zach is actually here. I'll meet with him after the fact, but for everybody understands, we took this position, I say we, I know most of us here since January, obviously. So we've had roughly 15 different folks that have either asked to put in new mobile homes, new dwellings, houses, etc. We've had several of those new ones even asked for permission to put up their shops, sheds, etc. We've had a few that want to change out some fences, of those sorts. Understanding that so far, again, when I was doing this on my own by myself until I got the volunteers, and again, Zach, thank you for your time. Jeff, I don't know if he's here, but if this point moving forward, once it's sent to us, if it comes through Becky or myself being contacted, I'll send out to you guys. But what we have to do then is go back and look at when that individual is in Block A and Lot 47, that we go look at the restrictions for Block A, Lot 47, and then the question that they have is, can they build a fence, for example? Well, yes, they can build a fence, but there's setbacks that state inside those particular bylaws where they can build the fence at. And some of those, and folks just don't understand, but our water and our sewer companies, our electric companies have easements that they have put forth in this subdivision, and there are certain lots that tells you point blank that you cannot have a fence, even though you own that lot, that you cannot put a structure on that particular easement. So it's our job just to make sure that those individuals know that. And I'm not saying it hasn't happened in the past, but a lot of folks have just done what they wanted to, and it's after the fact that up to the new owner to go, oh no, I didn't know that. So we're trying to get the information out to the public, asking you to do the same. You see your neighbor building something, scraping something off, it's not being nosy, just to call the board and say, hey, are anybody aware of what's happening over here on Cherokee? We would love to have that information. And our harbor security, those individuals have done an awesome job to drive around, and they also find these things out. I know for a fact, Donna Bush both had told me in the last 30 days that we've had a few individuals that are doing that same thing, and they contacted them. The folks were happy to fill out the forms. They weren't aware. So it's trying to educate each of our members and each of our community to understand that what we have set forth here is, it works great when it works, but we got to have everybody educated along the way. And it's not being nosy to your neighbor. Please let us know if you see something happening. All right. Next, moving on, I think we're going to switch to Randy Powell right now about pools and parks, if you don't mind to update us.
Okay. As far as people wanting Zoom meetings, I've donated a pair of wireless antennas that will stretch from the office to here. I bought one mounting, and I got to get mounts on both buildings and attach them. That's the next step. But that'll be one step to extending the network out to this building. So when we have meetings, then we can have live meetings that are streamed out to people.
Well,
So
2022, here we come.
So I'm donating the antennas, and I just had to get them up installed on the building.
Awesome.
Right now.
That is great. Thank you, Randy. Awesome.
The propane tank out this corner of the building, I found out it was, filled up right around the middle of February before our last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got about 70% of propane in it right now. And I tested about 2 weeks ago, I tested this heater, turned it on, left it on for about 5 minutes, and I was getting about 91 degrees out of that vent up there.
Why did we not have heat in our last meeting? Somebody just didn't want Becky to talk? What was that? What happened?
I really can't explain why, because there was heat an hour before the meeting.
Yep.
There was heat here, when I came back an hour later, and all of a sudden it was cooler, like what happened?
It was blowing cold air.
Yeah, it was unexplainable. So, but the tank's full right now, and that is pumping out heat.
Okay.
So, the picnic tables in the parks, yeah, I still have to get at least 1 or 2 extra picnic tables, probably close to the little children's playground area, or at least around the grills out there. We got some grills out there just sitting in the middle of nowhere with no picnic bench next to them.
Can we, would it be okay if we actually, again, and through DD as well, maybe putting the notices out there just to the community? Somebody might be buying a new lot or selling one or whatever, that they actually have picnic table at their place, and the next person's probably gonna try to throw it away or dispose of it. Would they be willing to donate it to the harbor for us to put out there, instead of having to obviously spend money that Becky's not gonna let you have right now?
Yeah.
So I don't wanna turn you down, but it's just a suggestion. We can put it out there from our website again, or if you don't mind posting or asking the community as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd be willing to sand it down, paint it and all, if we can get something like that, don't have to be brand new, but,
Sure.
at least it's big, can refurbish it maybe. It's got a few rotted planks, get it replaced, get it working, that'd be great.
Sounds good.
And that's for the people that wanna use the park for
Yeah.
picnics.
Okay.
We got an Easter egg hunt, the Dee, they're behind you, still working at, she's got a lot of donations on the back counter over there.
Dee Dee, do you mind update, that is, obviously that's on
April the 9th from 1 to 3. And we're still taking candy donations in the refrigerator. We've got the bags and the baskets and everything, so plastic eggs and candy that people wanna give. We're working on decorations and,
So regardless of age, can we still come and get the basket, or
well-
what are we doing here? I'm asking for a friend.
they're not definite ages.
Okay, great.
Will your parents bring you?
Yes.
You're accompanied by a parent.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Next time on the, power washing, cleaning of the bathrooms, the main reason for that is they got these little round grates in the floor, and they're probably original. And through the years, they got all kinds of junk being washed, and things, and the holes getting clogged up. I need to come back and, clear those holes up, so when Sarah cleans the room, she swaddles the floor, it's got a place to drain.
Okay.
You know, it hasn't even been clogged up, but holes do get cleaned out, so you got proper drainage in this room in case water spills on the floor.
Well, from the last, volunteer that you asked for, we had a great turnout, so if you need help again, maybe you can let folks know plenty ahead of time and see if we can get some volunteers to help you.
Yeah. And, okay, and the pool volunteers, I know I looked over a lot of the state regulations for running a pool, and they actually it's titled public bathing. It's a swimming pool, the state calls it public bathing facility. Of course. Yeah, so, but it talks about the pool, even talks about the bathrooms, as far as, the cleanliness and the proper markings, the proper life-saving tools around there. And it talks about training of the attendants, they have to receive some training. I'm trying to find out where they get this training from. Is it online? Do you have to actually attend a class somewhere? I'm trying to find where this training can be utilized.
Go ahead.
I believe Dee wants to address, after the meeting, and I think she's done a lot of researching on that she might be able to answer some of those questions as well.
Yeah, and I also handed her a copy
Oh,
of
okay,
this too, so
okay.
she has the same material I'm looking at.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Okay, yeah, the drain replacement, that kind of ties in with the power wash in the bathroom. Urinal update, I did buy some items at Lowe's, for a new drain. I came back that week and it was pretty cold out, I went in there to replace it, and it's got a big green garbage bag kind of sitting in there, some people don't use it, well, I came, it was a cold day, and now some people decided to start urinating in the plastic bag. That's about a half a gallon, and I decided I don't want to at that time, so, but, I'll come back and, there's a working toilet right next to it that people can still go bathroom in, they don't have to urinate into a bag that's sitting just 5 feet away, so I'll come back and finish that up again. So, it's warmer now, so.
Are you wanting to, be reimbursed for those, and I'll need your receipts for it, because I know you haven't requested any.
Nah, it's mostly GDC for the drain, it's not that expensive really. It just, you have to get the right size, it's a little larger than a standard household drain, you have to get, up to the right size for it. But, it's nickel dime stuff.
You can get stuff for a nickel and dime now, Randy? You sure?
Yeah.
You sure it's not a
Going
dollar?
to an old school, so that's PVC, so, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Human Connect, what is that called? Humanity Habitat?
I'll have
Oh,
to amend it.
Yeah, there you go. There's a new place out there, and that's,
It's the same, it's
yeah,
not new, but
no, there's a new one out there, it's on it.
it's the old one that is new. It's
Oh, really?
yeah.
Well, they had a reopening, how's that?
Yeah.
We actually got some pretty cool stuff for real cheap.
But it's the same one.
What is that road?
It's 82 highway, isn't it?
No, it's going to the airport out of Tahlequah, like, you know, if you're at Walmart
Yeah,
and you're at that stoplight, you need to turn going back out to the west. And it's over on your left-hand side of the road. I think it's a brand new building, it's huge.
It is, they built it, they opened it up first this year.
okay, I'll check that out, alright. Fixing the shower handles, I looked at the men's shower stalls, where the problem is, they've been bent up by fires over the years. There's a way to take a wrench and pull the spindles out, get the exact replacement, put them back in. I don't know what the manufacturer of those things are, cause all you got is the spindle sticking out. I'd have to turn the water off, pull those out, and they've been in there for, what, close to 40 years or so. And they might not come out nicely. I'm afraid if I turn too much, they might snap something off and break something off. So,
Well,
yeah.
Randy, I know, just because you're over this, don't
Yeah.
feel like if it's out of your wheelhouse or realm, I mean, that's where you
Yeah.
report back to us, say, hey, if this is what needs to be done, we've gotta get them in working order somehow.
Yeah.
We can beg at this point for Becky if we have the funds to do so. If we don't have the funds, the next thing we need to do is go to the members. And
Yeah.
if there's somebody that may be a plumber, have a little bit of knowledge and know-how, I know we begged last time, and, you know, Shannon, showed up, we had some, I actually purchased the materials for that to get those things done myself. So, I mean, we've got a great community here, we
Yeah.
just gotta go let them know, and I think if we can ask, if they tell us no, we don't have it there, then obviously that's where we go back to the well here, or go back to Becky here, and ask and see if we can get.
I can see you better, I mean, I know how to do it, with a braid that, little much worse, it's corroded, it's gonna snap and break
I
off
totally understand.
rather than come out nicely, so,
Okay.
they're really old.
Okay,
And then, put some flashing around there, so it actually, you know, looks halfway decent.
okay,
And it's working now with a nozzle on the shower head, you can just turn it on, turn it off, but you can't control the heat of the shower right now.
You know, Randy, I mentioned you this earlier, but just as a reminder, when I first came on board back last year, we were talking about developing teams and stuff to help get various work projects completed around the harbor. Previous board didn't seem to be interested in getting any teams developed, but we had, I received about 20-some volunteers that were willing to donate their time and even possible resources to help get that going. Sadly, they never did ever reach out to them to get anything done. I can give you the contacts, names, and stuff
That'd be
that
awesome.
volunteered at that time.
Sure.
Or you could also go online and just ask for volunteers. And I mean, there's people out there willing to do it. It's just make sure that when you ask that you got the backing to put them to work, because they want to see a really beautified community, and they're willing to help address that.
Yeah, I put down for knowledgeable.
Yeah, do that, because there's people who will volunteer. I
Put it on the
mean,
website, because
Yep.
a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
I was sitting out here for a week, I could have spread that, some of the jobs there, but I didn't know about it until recently, very recently, I assumed it probably already got done, you know?
Yeah.
I'll do it for free.
that gravel's been there for about a year.
But it's still there.
Last summer.
he did
No,
it
he
today,
just
he got,
spread it.
well, here we get to that too, yeah,
But, you know,
Awesome.
I didn't know about it. But
Okay.
awesome,
Pretty
I'm
much
just
started.
one person, you know, there's
Yeah.
plenty of people in the harbor don't know about a lot of this stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as replacing light fixtures, that's just a light fixture outside the bathrooms, it's not like a bad situation, just to bring the little light out there in the doorway in the middle of the night. So, I'd like to I can do that myself, it's probably replacing an LED light, it'll last a lot longer, will take less electricity than what they had before, which is, I think, is an original light probably. So, the women's store jam, where the strike plate is, it was all chewed up over the years from people, I don't know what they're doing with it, it wasn't working at all, so I replaced the door jam, got some long bolts there, proper door strikes in and out, so I just need to put in a wood door stop, which is just a piece of wood, trim for a door stop, so it hits it and it doesn't continue on any further. I've got that in the back of my car now, I just have to cut it to length, get some nails, drop in there, slap some paint on it, and then the door stop will be done on the woman's door.
All right, anything else you need to add to that?
No, and I just got some new business.
Later on.
Okay. All right, so, next, if we don't mind, James Taylor, if we can jump to security with you,
Would
sir?
you gonna allow me to address the pools this time, or is that?
At the end.
We'll do it after.
Oh,
the-
after, okay.
yeah, 'cause I think there's, 2 or 3 questions I have them asked, and we'll go all of them at the same time.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I do wanna just, for everybody's attention, we do have Butch and Don back now, so that's awesome. That's good. We're very proud of that. Just a little bit of history behind that, just so that you'll know and understand where they're coming from. Like I said earlier, I became elected on the board about a year ago, and I had been asked to serve on the board, or to run for the board. And in doing so, there were several things and several different people requesting me to do certain aspects of investigating things and what have you about how this was being operated. I'm not gonna go into all the detail, but a lot of you already know, but for the benefit of you guys, I was placed over security, and when I took on the responsibility of security, my biggest concern was for the safety of not only the community, but for Butch and Don. And I inquired about a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of things just here in the harbor. People want Butch and Don to be around and protect them and all this kind of stuff, but there was a lot of stuff that they weren't being protected. We don't have a lawyer that's online that's gonna support them and back them. They're not CLEAT certified. CLEAT certified, you can look that up online yourself, but I was assuming that they were CLEAT certified until later I found out that they weren't. They haven't been covered under our insurance program from day one. Our insurance does not cover anyone over security if they're not CLEAT certified. Now, I know this board gets a lot of, saying it's your fault. You know, we didn't inherit, we inherited that. We didn't create the problem. We just investigated, found out we wanted Butch and Don protected. They weren't being protected. So is it right for this board or any previous board not to investigate it and be concerned about their well-being as much as anybody else here? So, you know, that was presented to them. So who would want to be on a job if you're not gonna be protected by your community? And I could just go on and on. It gets frustrating to think about. But this board, currently, right now, are not the ones responsible for the things that have happened to this point. I mean, we've inherited a lot of stuff. Butch and Don, it wasn't our fault that they're not CLEAT certified. It wasn't our fault that the insurance didn't cover them. I mean, we just investigated, found out that these things are reality. Why didn't the previous boards do that? Why didn't they go in and take a look at it? Why is it all at once our fault? The condition of the pool right now, it's this board's fault because the pool is in the condition it's in. I was told a year ago that there was about $34,000 that it would take to bring the pool up to date. That was a year ago. I can imagine it's gonna be more than that today. But it's this board's fault, according to some people, because the pool's in the condition it's in, that we're wanting to close the pool. What I'd like to say is for those of you that think it's this board's fault because the pool's here, well, let's go back a few years back and find out when the pool started deteriorating. Well, why didn't the previous boards take care of the pool? Why is it that just this board here only is responsible for the devastation of the pool? I mean, I'm just asking. I know I might sound a little upset that I get tired of my name being put out there, that I'm responsible for some of this stuff. I'm just telling you, it didn't happen with this board. It happened a long time ago. And I'm just curious why they didn't come in and take some action to leave some of that issues. Walk into the men's and women's bathroom. Take a look at it. It's this board's fault because it's in that condition. These guys, most of these guys hadn't even been in here since January, but it's their fault that it's in that condition, according to some people. Well, why don't they ask the other previous boards, how come they didn't take any action to make it a better board? Just curious. You know, people like to point fingers at individuals. They like to take, I don't know, like in this case, we're videoing this meeting, we're recording it, but we have some individuals in the community that like to take recordings and only play a certain segment of that recording to attack the integrity of certain people, making statements that they want to get rid of the security or other issues here, taking it out of context. But that's acceptable by some people, but in my books, that's unacceptable. We even had somebody report about the pool when it was very cold, that we didn't have the cover properly fastened and it needed to be lifted. They reported that into the health department, and we were getting ready to face a heavy fine. You know, I don't know who turned it in, how many people turned it in. We could find out through a lawyer. We could get legal assistance to find out who that is, and then put their name on the webpage and say, thank you for your help and support of making this community a better place. You know, I appreciate the fact that they had concerns that it wasn't meeting legal guidelines, but my point is about that, why couldn't they come forward and be a solution instead of being a problem? And that's what's happening in this community. We have more people that want to just moan and complain about stuff, but you don't see them in here making a difference. And what I'd like to see is a difference made in here. You know, we have positive attitudes, that we try to construct things, like in Butch and Don's situation. Everybody, it's all at once. This board is running them off. You know, this board was only concerned about Butch and Don. This board had empathy for them. Wasn't trying to run them off, we're just giving them an understanding where they're at. So, but that's just a little part of what has happened. And
James,
yes.
You need a hug?
No, not yet. Another issue that I want to go over when I was elected, I've been seeing on Facebook here lately, a lot of stuff being said about Steve Cruz. Now, when I got elected, Steve Cruz was elected the same time I was. I got a chance and the opportunity to meet with Steve, and Steve presented, I mean, that guy had so many wonderful ideas about this harbor, it's unbelievable. I was so involved in what he wanted to do and see get completed here. I was on board with him. I mean, I thought, man, he and I had a lot in common. The problem of it is, nothing ever transpired from his ideas. I don't know if that was shot down by the rest of the board, or he got burned out, or whatever happened to him, but some reason, he just quit. He had his feel. But two things I want to point out for him is that he was wanting to do work on the pool, get it up and running. He had a lot of great ideas behind that. We just didn't have the finances to do it. He was going to renovate the bathrooms, and he was working hard to get people involved, donating stuff, and then all at once people are accusing him of taking or stealing merchandise or what have you. You know, it was supposed to be stored back here in this room where the fire department was. When I went back there, I didn't see a whole lot of stuff back there when I was on, when he was still on the board. So supposedly, whatever this stuff is being donated, I don't know where it went. I don't know who took it. Steve may have taken it. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't believe Steve has stolen or taken or misplaced a lot of the stuff that he's being accused of doing. I had my disagreements with Steve before he left on the board, because he said he was going to do stuff that he didn't ever do. But it wasn't necessarily because he didn't want them done. I mean, my gosh, you couldn't get anything accomplished prior to right now. You're seeing things being done. The tractor is another example. Almost a year that I've been serving on the board, and this young man over here has finally got the tractor running. Now, it's may not be lifting properly, but after a year, it's finally running. But it's the board's fault, this current board, that it hadn't been running prior to. We inherited it. All I'm getting at, folks, is that you got to quit pointing fingers at people and blaming people for stuff. If you want to see something done, volunteer. Get off your dead butts and let's get something going to make things a better place to a community here for us to move forward on. And then the other thing with Steve, he got injured. But the thing that I want to point out about Steve that I really like, and we need to be thankful for, is that the gentleman that had all of our accounting stuff, it did seem like the board had been working for, what, 3 or 4 years, Becky, that we've got missing information on? However many years those are, but it seemed like it was this board's fault that we don't have that information. Let's go back 4 or 5 years for other board members trying to get that information from this guy, CPA. Never came about. I made, I don't know how many numerous phone calls to the individual trying to get them, and you leave a voicemail, and you just had by chance to catch them. Somehow or another, Steve Cruz was able to get the guy, and he just told him, he said, you're gonna give us our information. The guy said, well, I don't have time. So he said, no, you're gonna get it, you're gonna have it to me at such and such date, and if you don't, I'm gonna come and get it myself. So the guy made arrangements for Steve to come and get whatever he could get at the time. So if it wasn't for Steve, we would have never got that. So I give him kudos for it. So, you know, I might have had discrepancies with him, but, you know, give Steve a little bit of credit. And if it wasn't for him, we might not have ever got that stuff. So everybody, whether you like them or not, they add value some way or another. So just keep that in mind. This board is, you know, we've inherited a lot, and we're just trying to make it functioning. There was some individuals saying, well, you have board meetings and you go out to have dinner for your board meetings. Well, my gosh, that's the way they've done it here forever.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. So.
Who's taking the order anyway?
Yeah. So we come in and we finally got actually having board meetings to where you're open. This is open to the public. You're welcome to come into a board meeting, but this is the board that made that available to you. They opened the doors up so that you can hear us debate and hear me complain and gripe. But you know, folks, I mean, you got to start getting real. I mean,
hey,
I'm running out of time.
Absolutely.
I gotta do all of mine real fast.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was
Those are
just,
great points. He's passionate, that's good.
I just wanted to point out that,
And
you
I
know.
do want to help, I just don't want the burden all, like you guys are saying, you don't want the burden falling on one set of shoulders.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Trust us, we know. We know.
And I want to help, and I have the ability to help, but you guys are
Absolutely.
making very good points.
Well, I assure you, nothing's gonna fall on your shoulders with the 5 sitting up here. I mean, we appreciate anybody that's willing to come on, and all we're trying to say is, there's just 5 of us. It's like what James is saying. There's just 5 of us that are here. All these things that should have been implemented in the past and should have been done, I'm not here to bash other boards. I'm just saying, we found out right now that these things are not implemented.
We're an association.
You bet. And so we want everybody to be involved, not 3 or 4 people. I mean, all of it's your money, it's not ours.
Good point.
So we just want you guys to be involved, and if there's things that you wanna see and you'd like to see done, hey, come tell us, and not just tell us, be a part of it.
Well, that and plus another issue is that you had insider trading going on. I mean, my goodness, you'd see, like in this case, we had 4 properties, is that right, that has been returned back to us or something like that? Heck, that might have been, I've not ever been brought back to the board. That could have been somebody's friend over here and hey, they're gonna relinquish their property and they go buy it. We're trying to do it legal. We're trying to make it where when properties are relinquished back to us, that we're putting it out to the public. We got this
And
property.
again, it's not ours, it's y'all.
That's right.
So, there you go.
So we're eliminating that. There's a lot of stuff that we've done, made changes with. We had a computer system.
James, I gotta cut you off.
Okay. I'll
It's
end.
on security,
Well,
sir.
Let's get back to that. One of the things that I want to point out, I handed you guys a Harbor Patrol program to address the security guys. We're changing their names to Harbor Patrol, and we are hiring them for a 6-month period for a trial basis to see how that works out. And they're going to be contracted labor, and we've put together some guidelines that we are implementing for the security to follow, you know, for the Harbor Patrol cause I feel like it's very important. They're on their own, they're gonna do their job, we're just asking them to follow these particular guidelines. And I don't know if you want me to read this, you
Well,
can take a look
You're
at
not
it later.
necessarily, but will you update the reasoning behind the harbor security word versus the harbor patrol word, please?
Yes, the reason we're not referring it to harbor security, when you, if you call them security guards, security officers are not cleat certified. So therefore, we don't want to put them in a position to where they're considered, they're certified and doing a job that, well, I don't know what word.
Well,
to
that they're not,
utilize.
that they're licensed for something they're not. So
Right.
if we say it's security and the verbiage underneath that, especially from an insurance standpoint, their insurance and ours, if you use the word security under there, it states they have to be cleat certified, or them as an individual and us as the harbor are held liable. And it's liable, and all it is somebody disgruntled, it's that simple. So, again, to eliminate any liability, any issue on them as individuals or us as the harbor, changing one word, okay. That doesn't mean they're not gonna still do their job, that they're not gonna be able to let us know, they're not gonna be there for you if you guys call. If you're not there, neighbor calls, somebody's, Don, I can tell you this week, I'm sorry, there was an individual with a vehicle in my house. Hey, who's this? And I'm like, oh, I forgot. Matter of fact, I would have told him, but I forgot. I had somebody up here working on another property. They didn't have utilities, and he used the restroom, that sort of thing. I said, hey, go to my house. But he saw him that quick. Hey, I don't know who this car is. It's not in your lot. That's awesome. That's what they're here for, guys. And they do it daily.
Yeah, they do an excellent job, and they're gonna be able to have, it's even better for them now that they're on their own and they're working as, contract labor versus being considered as an employee here, because now they have better opportunity to take action than what they had prior to the fact of being an employee here, because they had to represent certain things. Now, them being on their own, it's a lot better for them. So,
If I can just add, I think this is basically just a job description for them, so they know now what their responsibilities are.
Yes.
And it's really, I don't think there's a need to read it, but
yeah.
it's nice for them to actually know what their responsibilities are and to get out from underneath that false sense of security, because, I mean, they really didn't have any protection at all.
No.
And I think they were kind of under the.
Well, but, and unfortunately, again, it wasn't our issue in that, but now that it's out, and in the future, or in the past, I don't know, maybe they would not have come on board initially had they known that they weren't, I don't know.
Yeah,
How
we don't know.
And we weren't there, but, with that, I think Becky had some questions also regarding the same verbiage here, so if you wanna go ahead and ask that question.
I was just gonna ask, I noticed on the webpage stuff that we are advertising that we have security guards on our JinkoHarbor.com. Does that need to be changed to Harbor Patrol? In other words, are we gonna implement that all the way through? Not just
Well, I don't think
on
we
their
should really
signage and on their
take
vehicles
security
and stuff?
guards. Yeah, you can utilize the word, like, when you come in, it says security. Security just means it's a secure place. Just what you put to it, like a security guard, security officer, that makes a big difference. So as far as security,
It says in there that we have security guards.
yeah, we don't wanna say security guards, harbor patrol. The security is harbor patrol, because we have the right to define what our security is, and that's kind of what this does, is define what security we're offering. And then, now that they're contracted labor, somebody comes up to one of them and threatens their life, they have more power and authority now to address that than they had prior to, so.
Okay. All right.
So that makes it a lot better for them.
I don't think anything that they're doing is gonna change. I think.
Not,
I
no.
don't
really.
think you're gonna.
Has anything, if you don't mind, gentlemen, would y'all enlighten us, since the verbiage has come out and changed, has anything changed in your mannerisms? Has anybody approached you about anything and the reasons why?
No, they just asked, why are you not security? And I said, it's a liability issue. We're now Harbor Patrol. You haven't lost anything. We're gonna do the same thing we were doing before. It's just under a different name.
Okay. Thank you. thank you for sharing.
And they do an excellent job. They
Absolutely.
really do. Very proud of them.
Okay.
So,
As far as other things that they had on here for you, James, is there something that is here that, has changed from last month?
as far as on the keys, I've got to get with Don on that,
Okay.
to discuss that, because when I was putting together, my wife and I were having a conversation about, well, she said, should be over the keys, because all of the keys are accessible to all the community facilities, so should Randy be responsible for the distributing of the keys? So I wanted to bring it before the board to find out how the board feels we should mandate that, whether, on
Well,
the
right now,
facilities or
the-
what. I mean, it didn't make me any difference, but I wanted to do it the correct way.
Oh, I get it, but, I mean, we are fortunate that our security does live here.
Yes.
So, you know, like myself, I'm not here 24/7, you're not here 24/7. I think, you know, it would make sense, which I believe most of you guys, I mean, do both of y'all have the sets for everything at this time? Okay,
I
so,
believe we do.
you know, as far as,
I don't have a mailbox key.
yeah, no. Yeah. All right,
I'm responsible.
okay.
But we're gonna make I've got a list of all the keys that I can possibly think of, but I do feel like, and I've gotta verify with Don, I think some of the keys around here, we could make the same, and we might need to relock them, because I don't know how many keys have been
I think
duplicated.
that's the main question.
Yes.
How many people had sets before?
And so I wanted to find out if that's something you want us to work on, or
Yep.
you want Randy to work on. I just wanted to make sure I didn't step into a grounds of,
No, I think, if you don't mind working with Randy having
Yeah,
a couple
and I'll
of
do that.
keys that he has to, that you guys work together, I mean, to be honest, I
and
don't
we're
think.
gonna number the keys and
Yeah.
all of this, and so everybody had, so we get everybody with whatever's here.
Randy
I
actually
just want a
does.
steel key box.
Yeah, there's one inside that drawer too.
Yeah, well, this one now one, it's got a bunch of tags that are connected them,
Yeah.
and it's a 3-digit tumbler type lock. Put it on the wall, and then probably in the office area for all the masters.
Yeah, I think that's
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that'll work.
that'd be good, and so we go for that. We did adjust, Randy and I adjusted the cameras out, and they seem to be working fairly well, I guess.
I was gonna say, I don't think one of them is picking up. Well, all I've ever noticed is, huh?
On the one point to the chemical.
I actually pick up the bathroom and the pool and the storage room. I don't get the one that shows the office door for when people drop off their money and stuff into the
Oh, that's
drop
one
spot.
camera, it.
Does not pick it up at all.
For the camera,
It should
it's
be.
what, if it's taken to the pool, it should be seeing that door.
It shows up here, the pool. I can show it to you on my phone later on, but it's like,
It was working fine the other day.
Yeah, cause it showed, just to the left of the mailbox, the mail drop-off slot, and it shows about 3 feet to the right of the gate going into the pool. That was covered.
I don't know if it's because when somebody walks up and it immediately starts picking them up for I have the dump station too, that one there shows up as well. But when they're walking up the walk and then they start to walk around the table in the center, then I lose them. Then they're no longer visible on anything, and my notifications don't show up anything for the office door at all. I see the birds, if we got swallow nest out there, they're all over the cameras all the time, but,
Well, if you don't
I
mind,
don't get that.
Yeah, we'll check on it. I mean, this is what you should be seeing right now.
I don't get that, I'll show it to you later,
Okay.
but I don't get that at
I
all.
mean, it's-
My pool one shows up at the top and it just shows the pool.
Well, this is the pavilion.
I don't get that at all.
Okay,
I'll go
we'll
over
look
with you
at it later.
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
see.
go over that with you later.
I just picked it up. So so we got that going, and, just so that Butch and Don know, we do have, new architectural forms that we need to get to you, and the old ones you have need to be discarded, thrown away.
It has the new email address on it.
And, so we'll get that to you, and appreciate you guys, coming in and noticing new construction and porting it to architectural.
Absolutely.
It's a great thing, so. I apologize to the group, but, I just get kinda tired of, you know,
I get it, I understand, I owe you a hug.
yeah, I need a hug, I do need a hug. No, it's not that, I
I
just,
understand, I appreciate your
it's,
enthusiasm, and I understand.
it just gets old after a while.
Absolutely, but to me, guys, if y'all wanna badmouth me, hey, go right ahead. I mean, there's
I'm
all,
used to it.
hey, I'll tell you, there's a lot better people, and a lot worse people that done it, so, you have to get in line, it's not gonna bother me, we're right ahead, it's just noise, how I take it. Now next, let's see here, yeah, James Depew, roads utility, sir.
Tractor runs, got 2 batteries for it last time we were here, put another 15 gallons of fluid in it, and it does operate. It's not very convenient to use. I didn't think the bucket worked. It was Billy that showed us that the bucket does work. You have to hold your mouth just right, one level on one left leg on the clutch, wiggle things around, and it works. It's not real convenient, but it works. I wouldn't wanna try to build a road with it that way. It is not very handy. It does, the seals that I was gonna replace in the back, once we got it full of fluid and actually started moving it around, are minor problems. Everything that's a cylinder on it leaks, and some of the hose connections leak, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that tractor to make it usable on a daily basis. Right now, every time you use it, you have to put fluid in it. It marches territory more than the dog does. The gravel spread, filled up the holes around back by the dumpster. And you could buy gravel to the end of time if you wanted to, but, and that needs to happen, I guess, but we need something to spread it with a little quicker. It took me about an hour and a half to spread out a little thicker gravel, so. And I would suggest selling that tractor, and then I did look at Don took me back and showed me the fire truck. It's a real damn fire truck.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was, just a little cheesy fire truck, but that's a big ass truck. So, and there is a website, ladder trucks, used fire truck on it. Getting a price for it, would have, I don't know the best way to sell it. I don't know if we could put it up for an auction or just,
I know a
have
guy.
suggestions. Do you?
Absolutely. Done it multiple times, but yes, we can do that. Yes,
Cause
we
it's
can do a lot.
kind of a unique thing. It's a 1975, is that right,
Yeah,
Don?
75.
And it's a real truck. Somebody would want it, and I mean, it's legit, so.
Is it a diesel or gas burner?
It's gas, right?
Yeah,
Gasoline,
gas.
I think they said it had a 460 in it. Don was the last one to drive it. He actually picked it up, said the fuel filter was clogged in it, so they just took a 5-gallon jug and run a hose and bypassed the filter and drove it here that way. But it's the real deal. I was kind of shocked when I went in there, but, and the value, just looking at values, it could go, if the right person got a hold of it, you might be able to get 10,000 for it. I would think around 5,000 as it sits. There are ladder trucks on that website for 12,000 that look a lot better and run and actually work. So we're not, we're looking at probably 5,000 to 10,000.
So, but, I guess the question from us, so the 2 assets that we have right now that truly are getting little to no use out of, so from the tractor standpoint that we have and the fire truck, those 2 items, if they were to be sold, not trying to hold you to it, if you gave us a guesstimate of what those 2 things total be, would there be enough money to replace with something that is more usable? Would we have to put money with it?
You would have to put some money with it, I would believe.
Okay?
We do have money in the road fund that hasn't been touched in a few years, about 3 years or so now.
And I think to get a good used one that's not in the same situation as that tractor, and Zach could probably back me up on this. I mean, you'd have to spend $20,000 to get a backhoe, that you're not gonna have to start working on right away, and you could use. Those 2 things, the tractor, like it sits, $5,000 to $7,000 probably. Somebody's gonna have to really go through it to make it usable. And then the fire truck, that's just, I have no idea, really.
Well, so, I'm just looking at it from this perspective. I have actually been contacted by a few individuals over this last storm, ice storms that we've had. about our roads and, if there's something we can do personally and having it. At the time, if y'all remember, the one piece of equipment, which is this tractor that we had, wasn't even running, and even if it was running, would it work on snow and ice? So simple question for our community, no.
And I don't think a backhoe is gonna really work on snow.
No. Well,
But again, it's gonna move a little bit of snow, but, it's not gonna, you know, when this road's are iced over, nothing's gonna really work on it. You just have to.
Is it really needed for the community?
Well, so the things, the amount of roads that we have that are private, meaning still owned by the harbor, versus that are county roads. That was the purpose and the meaning behind it, okay? So in the event that's, we had the main cans that are on the road that help control the water flow, and the ditches themselves that get filled in, just by, you know, years of non-service, water, debris, the county that comes and grades them graciously every once in a while. And if, you know, we could tell the public, please don't call the county and complain. If you have a complaint, contact us. The more complaints that the county gets, I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna stop helping us. They're only gonna do their roads, which are very minimal roads that they own in here. So, contacting us, we have a liaison that is in charge of roads right here. Let that one person be the one to make that call. We understand what we get with, you know, bees and honey, right? So if we can do that, that'd be a great help. At the same time, the roads that we have to have something like this, just like that, someone like Zach that may have some equipment that would be willing to do that on a, you know, voluntary basis, I mean, that's great, but we can't, I don't know that we could reach out every time and take time from you and your work schedule to try to get that stuff done every time.
Right.
So, I mean, it's great right now that you're here and you have the ability and willingness to do so. I think it's awesome and we greatly appreciate it. But I think moving forward, if we have that asset to have something here that can be used to do those things, digging out the ditches and trying to help just fill in some potholes, some minor things that can be done with the roads that we own as the harbor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you be willing to, what do y'all feel about him truly getting us a value price or set a time limit? I mean, if we're gonna do something, to do it, do you wanna wait, put it on out to the membership to vote on it, where we don't have everybody upset with us, but understand what's going on? You got a recommendation to the board, what do you think?
No, I'm kind of up for ideas. I mean, what, do we wanna let people, do we wanna vote on it and, you know, let the members decide if we sell the tractor and get a backhoe? I think it's a kind of a unanimous decision with us, but,
Maybe pull what we have here and just kinda get an idea of what they think.
Okay,
So,
what, yes,
Sell both of them and get something new.
so, I mean,
are the members that are here?
I second that.
Who
Sell
operates
it.
that equipment? Who do we have manning that equipment for it to be utilized?
Yeah, correct. So the board, over the years, have had one individual on the board that actually knows how to run and maintain some form of farm equipment, quote, or any form of heavy equipment. In this case, we had the luxury to have James, who owns the farm and knows how to operate those. Previous years, they had Billy, of course, that was on here that knew how to operate those. So there's always been one person that has been there. But does that mean in the future that we're gonna have that? To answer your question, no, sir. We have the luxury of having it now. But in the past, even when there was individuals that weren't on the board, there was someone still in the community that, like Zach, for example, that knew how to operate those, that can prove that to the board where you can relinquish and not just come up here and grab a key and go take it when you want. You still have, like, for example, James is over the roads and over the, you know, that stuff would be in his department. But at the same time, he's not just gonna turn around and give the keys to somebody just because they come up and brought him a case of beer.
We don't want anyone to get hurt.
Absolutely.
That's a
100%.
liability coverage.
It's a huge liability. So again, the board members, again, under our insurance policy, we are covered under insurance, if that makes sense. As long as anything that the board owns on board property, if something happens, the liability policy is covered as well. Does that make sense? So if someone took this tractor from an individual to their personal house and did something in their personal yard, is that owned by us, as the harbor? No. If, you know, they got hurt, they were doing that, and that's what was found out, is that insurance policy gonna cover them? No. If they're on a county road versus a harbor road, that access, though, you have to use that access to get to point A to point B, that would still be covered, if that makes sense. But if it happened on a harbor road, harbor property like this where we're at right now, it's owned by us, so that individual and us would be covered. Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. So in speaking maybe to the broader point, if I can try to articulate, Zach, like Zach and many others, it sounds like here, they have equipment, right?
Some, but not, there's a lot of the folks that, not just Zach, but there's several that do work in the community, but they're not members here. But, you know, we've asked and begged favors for it, just like there were trees out here and some stumps out here, and one of the other individuals was more or less just begged and stopped because he was doing work right here. Hey, do you think you could pull these stumps out and put them on some harbor lot properties? Sure. And he just volunteered his time and did that.
In an organized fashion, I think, much to his point earlier, I'm willing to help support those efforts. You know, I think as others have expressed, I do want to support that. That's good.
Well, I think that's our thing is, you know, to answer your question, I mean, it doesn't sound like we have anybody that's negative to say.
Well, I got a question.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of the private roads that are around here. I mean, they really need, you gotta have a backhoe, I would think, to be able to get in there with a bucket to dig those ditches out.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if that's shouldn't the board have the responsibility or have the authority to agree to purchase a backhoe?
That's
Because
why, can we just say, let's sell them both?
I would say that we
Buy a
go
backhoe
ahead
and
and
get
purchase a
this.
backhoe so we could get things actually moving,
Mhm.
and then put this other equipment up for sale if we have the funds to do that. I mean, that's just my point of view, because I don't know how many times people said that we're not doing anything with the roads yet. Well, we can't do anything with roads, we don't have the equipment to operate it.
Absolutely.
That's gonna be utilized for the roads, and so that we could, to me, it's a great investment. It's a whole lot better than putting a lot of money into this tractor that's, you can't build roads with it. Backhoe, at least you can get out and dig ditches and you can move quite a bit with one of those.
I can get a price on the tractor, and, I haven't contacted Williamsport and the tractor, I can give the,
And you know,
Okay,
we
well,
could also raise money with that backhoe too.
How about this suggestion? What if we allowed, James to go ahead and get us values on those two items, just estimates, what do you think we can sell them for? By our next meeting, also put it on the agenda and to the public, to the members. But again, this is just a suggestion, y'all let me know what you think, that, we put it to a vote to sell these items to purchase. The reason that we're selling, we're not just selling so we can, you know, run out here to give it away to the casino. We're actually selling it to put right back into the same road fund department, but we just hold the members that are here next meeting. And they know that's gonna be it. They can't complain if they were notified and you had the ability to be here to vote.
Sounds good to me.
What do you think, Becky?
Sounds good to me.
What do you think?
I agree.
So let's do that. Let's go ahead, y'all feel like making a motion to, go ahead and let James get the value of these things? Let us know what we can estimate to sell them for, get an estimate on what we can, would have to spend to replace it for a backhoe mentality. So we know values, we can put it to the members and let them truly vote on selling and buying,
I'll make a motion.
I also would like to add one thing real quick.
okay?
If maybe you can get whatever I'm trying to say, a range of backhoe pricing, that we can like,
Very good.
you know, give them the,
Yeah.
say, here, we can sell this for this, and this is what we can actually
Mhm.
apply to, so we only take this amount of money out of the roads towards it
Yep.
if we need to.
We can do that.
Yep. Sounds good? We got a motion then,
Yep,
Hey.
make a motion.
okay?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Next month, everybody that's here, that's gonna be a good standing member that wants to vote on that, that's what we're doing next month, to go ahead and put those things up for sale and to purchase another one. All right? Anything else, sir?
Yeah, real quick, I did get the light turned off at the security shack. It was in, another individual's name that started it, and, thank you for providing me an email address. I contacted him, he called and had it turned off. So that should be off. Have you seen the bill drop or?
Oh, no, it's off.
Okay, good. And then I did call the water department. We had a question, via the website from a member about the cost of water and sewer, and the deposits required. I did talk to the water department. To get a sewer system installed now, there's a $7,000 deposit that they require. They install the sewer, and then whatever's left out of that $7,000, they will use it to pay your bill until that deposit's gone. So, and now they are not allowing water taps unless there's a sewer system installed. They said that they would have to have somebody from Cherokee County tell them that they can do that, because they're not allowing that anymore, so, yeah.
Their form, actually, I was just, this issue, I was on the water department this week, cause we just built a boat shop and we want some irrigation, just want water. But their form, says that whatever's left of it is refunded to the customer. It doesn't say that would be applied to their.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say.
But that's internal, that's something like, my bigger issue is, and I was gonna ask you all, was that, did we change the requirement that you have to have sewer? And then
They did.
So,
they told me you, and I.
oh, awesome, yeah.
Well, no, so I didn't, Becky didn't tell me that would happen, so I knew it didn't happen.
Right.
So, so here's the thing, the water company is that's a regulated company by Oklahoma Commission. Anything they charge, anything they do has to be approved by the commission, and we don't have anything to do with that. They're their own entity. The pricing has actually been the same for, I think since 2014, I don't think it's changed.
No,
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah, it was 5,000, and then it went to
It was
7.
35.
No, the monthly pricing,
I'm
pricing.
Oh, monthly.
Yeah, the
Oh,
sewer,
yeah.
the sewer
I
install
thought
cost
you
like
said
$75 monthly,
Yeah.
since 2014.
Well, so,
Anyway,
If I could segue off his, point for the septic system, so to clarify, individuals are not permitted to set their own septic?
that is correct.
yes.
Cause you're tying to their system.
Right.
That
You
is-
pay to have your septic pumped here though, have someone.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, you wanna do that.
so the way they look at it is that septic system is theirs, and it's required for you to operate your sewer to their system. It's their holding tanks, basically. They have liquid pumps in them. If you're in a spot where you have a pump, the pump is your responsibility, but the tank is theirs. So they will replace the pump for you, but you will have to buy the pump. So you can basically call them and say, hey, my pump's out, and they will come put a new pump in, and they will basically charge you for
Okay,
the pump.
I'm sorry if this is being repetitive. So, as an individual, can I set my own septic and pump?
No,
No.
No.
no, sir. Unfortunately, that is in our bylaw system, which does state,
Okay.
if you, for the same purpose, for example, which states that you can't have a private water system either, meaning you can't drill a well. Does that make sense? So, the bylaws that were implemented when this subdivision was created, each individual lot, if you had, for example, your own sewer system of some sort, which most still today, if you'll notice the sewer dump that's up here, that still have, the old honey wagon mentality, to be able to haul their sewer up here to dump, that was still created from this subdivision. So that's the bylaws that we have right now that are still in place. This is another thing that, if someone wants to sit on those committees, and the reason why, if they have better ideas or wanna bring things to the board, the community, the members, so be it. But right now, what's implemented is, if you're doing a city water source, of course, you have the one source, you can't go well on an individual lot. Same way with the sewer system, if you have a sewer system that's hooked up to your RV, et cetera, camper that is a honey wagon mentality and you're bringing it up here and dumping it, it's still legal. Go ahead.
No, good, you clarified for me.
Okay, that is still legal.
Yeah.
What the water company is saying, no, from now on, which was not the board, that,
Which I know, I
yeah,
heard, so.
what was not the board that said, hey, no more, can you have X? We are not, if we had that much control that we could call the water company and say, hey, you know what, I think this is what I want you to do.
We got some people that-
Absolutely, El Presidente said that. I mean, that's what we're doing, but we don't have that authority. I mean, it would be great, but we don't have that authority to tell them what to do. Good to go?
Yeah, I think the deposit thing is kind of cheesy, this is just my personal opinion, but, $7,000 to get your sewer installed. If it costs $5,000, you have $2,000 left over. If they apply it to your bill, what I would do is I would just call and just say, I want my money, and they'll have to send you a check. I mean, they say, what they're gonna say is, we'll just keep it and apply it to your bill, so you won't have a bill until that money runs out. Well, I would just call and get my money, and that's what you can do. I know you can, so.
Okay,
That's all I got.
all right,
So can I just like recap one thing?
absolutely, because we're going to do business anyway.
Yeah, okay. So, I know I ran through mine real fast, so I just wanna make sure that everybody did understand the fact that we're basically down back to our beginning of the first of the year, even though we brought in almost $50,000 worth of dues, and maximum amount that we can actually really bring in, so to speak, without back dues is 112. We're just gonna have to like reassess everything as we go monthly, and I just want everybody to know that even though we have a set budget, set for like, okay, this is how much money we have for the pool, this is how much money we have for security, harbor patrol, I gotta get used to that word, too many years worth of that. That sort of type thing. In other words, like, we're just gonna have to reassess that as we go along each and every single time. The treasurer's report at the end of the month will be back up on the bulletin board. I have asked Kevin what he thought about us putting that on our webpage as well, so that it's public out there. You can see what we spend money on. I know there was some questions on there about what did we spend this money on for, what did we spend that money on for? Ask me, I'll tell you exactly what we spent it for.
Well, we went through all of this, last month, and then, which we'll do again at every quarter mentality to just, as an ongoing ledger for everybody to see at the board meeting. So, if they wanna come out and they wanna read it, and they wanna see it, that's what we're here for, and we'll go over those line items as they're, expressed. But as far as have that information out here to you, this is things that you didn't have in the past. These things were not available to you, you didn't see them, it's all out there, it's your information, it's there. And if you have a question, again, and I'm not a Facebooker, I'm sorry, y'all, there might be those that love Facebook and watch it and read it every day. That's not my deal. Of course, my wife keeps me up to date usually on what's happening, somebody tags or posts me in something. But, if the question is presented there, to me, again, that's just noise. That's you guys talking amongst each other about what you wanna say, and that's great. That's what it's there for. But if you have a question for the board, it's one other click. Instead of clicking Facebook, click the internet. And then go to 10killerharbor.com and go, hey, board members, here's my question. Make sense?
Plus, we have a new email address.
Yep. New email address is out there, but it's out there. All you gotta do is click on it. Same deal, go to the website, it's there. The new forms that were given to the, actual Harbor Patrol as well, to be able to hand out. These forms had the old email on there, the new ones will have the new email address as well for contact. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and jump into new business. If we have things to bring up, which, one of them hit a site for us setting a POA meeting date, and, we need to have that agenda on what the people wanna hear, to talk about. So if there's other items that members have, or have they sent anything to you, Becky?
No,
Okay? Okay,
DV's request to speak,
okay.
that's all I have.
What did you have? Go ahead, Ray.
As far as new business, I just wanted to, maybe add an item
Sure.
to the annual members vote.
Uh-huh.
It's basically a yes or no type question. Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, a year and a half or so ago, they said the pool would need about $34,000 for repairs, new pump and all. As of right now, that's not realistic, knowing our account balance and how much money they'll ask for the next year. So I wanted to propose putting a question on the ballot, something to the effect, and I can work on the word a little bit, but something to the effect, would you, as a voting member, be open to a dues increase to keep the pool operational? Operational is to repair all, everything that needs fixed in that thing right now. We got broken concrete surrounding it, it needs resurfaced, possibly needs a new pump down the road. And it's just yes, no question to get the feel of the neighborhood. Because as of right now, there's no money to do repairs in that thing. We're basically just keeping it running at the moment. So I just wanted to add the ballot and get this is the best opportunity to get the maximum number of participants to give us some kind of answer. Well, I appreciate you putting one out on the Facebook, but it doesn't really get out to everybody. So we want a larger, to cover the maximum number of people.
Well, and at the same time, I mean, our bylaws state that, just like that, one person might get one vote, but if they own 4 lots or more, well, they should have got 4.
Yeah.
Versus the one that has 1. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
not really fair to give that a true assessment, unfortunately, to say, what would it really be? What would it really be if you put it into, the voting membership? So to answer your question, I think before we add that question to our ballot for a vote, because this time the only one that we had that actually sent a questionnaire to us was Dee Dee, to a chance to speak.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if that's what hers is about, can we let her speak,
Yeah.
and then we'll address this
Fine.
at the same time? Is that
Yeah.
okay with you?
Mhm.
All right. Dee Dee, at this time, if you don't mind,
Okay,
the floor is yours, ma'am.
and I'll be short, and I kind of made an outline. About the pool, I don't know which way we should go. What we can do and what we can't do. And so I've just been, for a long time, doing a lot of research and starting with the health department, and then when it came up for repairs, I used to work for Daniels, so I've looked up YouTube's on replacing coping. But to start, here's my outline, and I'll just read it. It's just information I'm sharing. My poll was mainly to see if the louder voices were more against the pool, and just to see if it was worth me even saying I'll volunteer and I'll get volunteers. I had out of my group, there's usually like 95 people in my group. I usually have 50 to 75 views on anything I put. No, hardly any likes. Everybody just looks. But that's okay because it's information. It's not half the time I take comments off. But people do want to keep the pool, and a lot of people are willing to work for it and not argue about it. So just for information, as far as volunteer qualifications for the health department to be a pool operator, they have the online video school, and you can do online video. It's an hour and a half, but there's calculation. It's not easy. I mean, you have to be like a pool operator. You have to do calculations. I've never actually done a pool, but you have to know what the water is. So there's a hour and a half video and a manual that you can download. It's a 25 question test, and you can take it online. If we do have the pool and we're trying to run it, it's been so dirty that nobody has wanted to go in it, and it's been awful. So I think you should have an SOP book, just like you would have in the office, standard operating procedure. I don't know if they had one. I've seen various techniques used out there, and when I went back over, what you're supposed to do and how to test and where to take your water from and all, I don't think I saw that. So I think anybody who would be over, whoever gets your pool operator is supposed to test it every day. You're supposed to live close enough to be there and test it before you open it and monitor it 4 times during the day. I don't think it means to take it 4 times in an hour. Okay, So, after those things, if we're able to run the pool with volunteers and have money for chemicals and can actually get people to do it, if you can't do it, then it should dump the water and start on the repairs. Look at the coping, whatever you need to do. Some stuff can be done by, I don't know if people can do it. I know how to do that stuff, but I was a field engineer, like a surveyor. And so I could work, I'd be glad to help get ideas on what it would take to be fixed. I'm pretty good at figuring estimates, not me doing the estimates, but to see if they're wrong, if that makes sense. So, Okay, and then repairs, there are things like, of course, the obvious, the coping, but then there's the safety equipment, the handrails. The first time I went in the pool last summer and I put my hand on that handrail, I had my big old pink float with me, and the handrail immediately pulled loose, and thank God I ended up setting my behind on the pool float. You know, I would have broke my hip again. So it does have a lot of safety issues, and that's just been in there. One side no handrail, one side a handrail that can pop off. And so I'm not trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater and make y'all shut it down either. But you know, pool coping, the deck cracks, pool coping and stuff. If that's panels, they can be taken off and replaced. But that is a lot of money. That's more like $30 to $50 a foot. If it's a poured pool, cantilever, you know, poured coping, then that's more like $10 a foot. If the prices I'm looking, but that's to do it. So I did call somebody about maybe giving us a new estimate for the coping and resurfacing, not for the bath, not for any of the other, but they said that they would get with us, and that's just a free estimate. It's Maroons in Broken Arrow, and they're really good. Then for strategy for like getting pool volunteers and stuff, you know, community awareness with my social media group. If we were to have the pool open, we would have like volunteer operators committee where they would, whoever, because I can't, you know, if I volunteer, I could give a week a month, but you know, I don't know what other people, but anybody would have to be, like you say, in good standing and know what they're doing.
Will they need to have that certification also?
You really,
On the volunteers?
no, but
the person who
the
doesn't have
whoever's over them. But I would want. I don't mean they'd have to train, but and that is if I can see the colors. If I can pass the test, and I read it, but I don't see good. And then community activities and awareness that things like RWI. That's how you get sick from the water, like when they have like bad poop accidents and stuff, and stuff like that. I think that people just go in the bathrooms and like maybe shower, maybe don't. But I think if we are doing this and we're volunteering to do it, I think we should like care about doing it. And so that's just that. And then we could offer have classes, and it says to educate your kids about that. And that's something you tell your kids and get them going there in the shower. Red Cross could have swimming lessons in conjunction if we were all shipshape. Those are future things to work with the community center. First aid safety lessons, community cleanup. Some of the benefits is when you have public pools closed. When public pools close, inner cities and non-affluent children don't have anywhere relatively safe to swim. Kids are going to find a way to cool off. So if they have a river or quarry or canal where the risk of drowning dramatically increases. You know, we do have the lake around. I know that people go swimming in the lake and have boats, but a lot of kids do come. If it was clean, more kids would come. I've had, what is the other thing? Same kind of thing. Anyway, my examples of what the pool can do for the kids here is those are benefits of keeping delinquency and safety. And then examples of what our community and the pool does is Rachel Duke's Kids Community Cleanup Crew. They come out here and clean up. I remember when they had something sad happen last year, that was how they dealt with their grief for losing somebody, was they came to the pool. And they cleaned up and then they came to the pool. And that's what we want our kids to do. Another example of the benefits is Danielle Watson, and she helped with Halloween. She grew up out here. She, you know, interacts, goes to the pool, and then helps with things. Aubrey Hyatt helped with the Halloween and Christmas event helper for the Harbor Care Circle. She was 3 when I started coming to the pool in 2014. She did a game. She helped Lucinda with giving out chocolate. She's 12 now. And all she wants to do, she's on the student council and wants to help and is volunteered to help with the pool too, if we let a 12-year-old help. And so those are the benefits, is helping our community. And I would be glad to try to find people to do it. I can give a certain amount of time and I would take the test if y'all wanted me to, but if there's no money, there's no money, you know, but if there is, I think we should try.
Well, I appreciate the time that you put into it, honestly, to look into, TV shows where your heart lies, obviously, for you to take the time and even do it, so, commend you on taking the time and your outreach group for that. Obviously, this is another, question that's been posed to, not just this board, I don't know, for a fact, I mean, for the years that I've been in here, the pool has been verbiage, both positive and negative, and to each his own. But the difference is, it's a part of this, membership community, obviously, that's here, and the dues it takes money to operate it.
Do we have chemicals in storage? Do we have a pool, do we have a opening package that we do? Who opens the pool?
I want to say that, when I was told, since I just came here in January, I was told that they bring an outside person in to do the pool opening, I was told. Does all the preliminary checks, and then it's passed to us. And Sarah told me that she even put in the chemicals in last year.
So, I would really suggest, and this is terrible news, but I would really suggest getting another quote on that, because from what I understand, last year, one of the largest chlorine plants in Alabama caught on fire and burned half down. Their production is very limited, and if you can find chlorine now, you're very lucky. We have a pool at our house, and I bought a 10-pound or 15-pound jug of chlorine. It was $200.
Whoa.
So, and last year that would have been about 80. So it's very hard to find. I mean, if you do find it, you just buy what you can, because
I
it's hard to get.
forwarded an email to you the other day
Yeah,
that I got, that we have chlorine
Yeah.
from a school company that sent an email to us.
Well,
I
so-
didn't check that, I just forwarded it.
As a whole, I think, and obviously this would attest and back up to Dee, but by the time July gets here, we're gonna be too far behind the 8 ball. I mean,
Well, it
we
has
can
to
still
take
put
forward.
this out on the board, and for any board member to go through and know it. I mean, I'm all for, the more information we can put on the ballot, with the exception of, hey, does anybody like James Taylor? I mean, outside of that. No, I'm just saying, but for, in all these years that I've been here, if you got 3 people running for a board and two of them are saying that's how you get on there and check, and that's it. But if you really was able to, the one time that you can poll our members, the more stuff that we can put on this, I think it's gonna be beneficial for the boards going forward.
Would you also let us know, like, if we choose to do the pool, are we gonna maybe lose security because we're not gonna have funds for security the next month or
Right.
something like that?
No, I'm with you, absolutely. Well, the stuff that we have to have, I mean, here, let's be realistic. So, and the pool is great, but we all know that we have to have this. What is this place gonna look like without trash?
Right.
Okay?
That's in our restrictions. that
Sure,
we provide for.
absolutely. At the same time, without having some form, of security for multiple reasons. And the health risk, same deal. Something happens at this pool, who's the first person called? They're gonna call 911. Who's the first people are gonna be here? Those guys. So we know, and then they have the people on speed dial to call to know exactly what needs to happen. Now that we have the ELO pad, we have the abilities out here to get things done, it's able to come across. So to answer your question, absolutely. I mean, this is why we got Becky in this seat and not Kevin Clinton. Because if I was in that seat, I'd tell all of y'all, we ain't got enough money, park's closed. I mean, I'm done Griswold. Yes, ma'am.
That's why I'm just trying to get volunteers, because if there's not chemical money, we don't want to sacrifice priorities.
Sure.
We're trying to find volunteer ways to do it,
Absolutely.
other
And
than,
that's what I'm saying, we definitely commit you. Anything you can help do to get public awareness out there, it benefits not only us up here, but the community themselves to know what things you're talking about, and the questions that just come to us. So, to me, to say, my suggestion, sitting in this seat, that, we're gonna put something on the ballot. If you put something on the ballot about the pool, I think we need to make, this is my suggestion, a whole pool, questionnaire. Are you for, keeping the pool open or closed? I mean, that's a yes or no. If, at the same time, under the pool, to amend what you're speaking about, would you be willing to have the dues increase for the pool, yes or no? And that doesn't mean that it's gonna happen, but it's for the next board to be able to make that decision of, hey guys, right here, the members have spoke, and here it is. And if that's the case, then the next suggestion, me, going forward would be, if there's people and it's split, that there's 500 people that actually voted, for example, and 300 of them simply want a pool, but we don't have any money. Okay, would those 300 people be willing to pay extra in dues and the 200 that don't? And then monitor the pool and say, hey, you're one said no. Sorry, you can't get in this year. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, but you understand where I'm coming from. I mean, if it comes out to the people that want it, they're willing to pay for it. The people that don't, you know, I get it, but you know, it's just like the rest of the dues that people talk about right now, that they want to see what their dues is going to. Well, let's be realistic. If you broke the dues down for your cost, how much would you pay just individually for trash at your property? I mean, so
Not what
you're
you're paying now.
absolutely. So your trash that you're paying barely even covers the trash bill, and you get the rest of this as a benefit. So if you paid an extra, you know, couple bucks a year to go toward these amenities for you and what you're living in, would it be worth it? I mean, those are questions that we've got a pool of members on, but it's like beating a dead horse. Everybody keeps emailing and asking the same question, but when you got more month at the end of the money, that tells itself right there. We don't have the funds to do it. So, but yes, ma'am, I appreciate you
I also
adding
want
that
to
to it.
say thank you for Jay. Jay has like been out there, right? And I know Don has done the same thing, so Don, I'm not taking that away from you about raking the leaves or anything like that, but I know they're getting that park ready for the Easter hunt, and I heard mowing the other day, whenever somebody left a message on the phone in the office, so I figured that was, you know, mowing. We're not gonna have any money to pay for mowing, just FYI.
We'll volunteer to do it.
Yep, awesome. Well, we got one more question that was dropped off to us. I don't know if this individual's here.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it was asked about, would we please look at a couple of properties that are located here in the harbor that are pretty, for lack of better words, run down. And so we actually answered this last month in the meeting, but for you guys to reiterate, our first priority, number one, was to try to get this due situation under control, because without money, we can't do anything. So that's where our main focus has been at, and it still is. This is hopefully gonna be up and done within the next 60 days. So it's a lot easier for individuals to be able to log on and pay their own dues, pay them online, et cetera, and not have to even contact the board office. You can go in there and click of a mouse and be able to pay. At the same time, if you're selling your property, you click that next button and say, okay, this is next now, what you had as a portal, I've sold all this. You're contacting the board to let them know that you've sold your property. Here's the new individual's names for buyers. So getting that part set up and getting under control. The next thing after that, obviously, from the last meeting to back up on, is once the end of April is here, we know who has and hasn't paid, so we don't have to file liens twice to help save money, because the people that are behind right now, be realistic, they're probably still gonna be behind, but we're sending them that notice, which is what we've done. But to save us double fees, we're gonna wait to the end of April, and if they haven't paid this year also, we only have one fee for filing, if that makes sense. And at the same time, then we'll have a better list of where we are of needing to collect dues from those individuals, and then all of you are gonna be aware of who those individuals are. So if you're wondering if your neighbor's being a bum in the harbor, or if they're gonna actually help us out, you're gonna know, and it ain't gonna be behind closed doors anymore. So
On the bulletin board right now.
it'll be out there and say, hey, these people haven't paid, if their place looks like X, you know, they're the ones that we need to go after. They're the reason that it does. Does that make sense? And I hate to single anybody out. I'm seriously, I'm not trying to be rude about it, but this is big boy world. You bought into this place and you knew what it was coming in here, and if you didn't, you don't now. But to answer this person's question about will we look into it, absolutely. Once these things are done and implemented in place, and we got those people under control, because that's how we're gonna make our money and get back. The next thing we're gonna implement, obviously, we'll have a sit down with James and our Harbor Patrol about, there are several places in here that are not in accordance to our bylaws. And some of those places have actually, when been asked and approached, have been told us as the board that they were approved by the previous board that they could do those things. Well, okay, if they're not able to produce one of these forms that's signed off on and say, yes, you have been approved, because you got a copy of one of these when it was sent in, you got a copy signed off given to you, and you got a copy of this which is in your file. which now will go on this portal that we're talking about online. So all of your stuff is gonna be uploaded and it's on there. We can't take it back, it's there. Does that make sense? So going forward, all that information is gonna be there. But these individuals that have stated that the previous boards or board members may have given them approval to do things, that's why we're asking this architectural committee that we are gonna have now to sit down and look at these items and go back to them verbatim. And if they are not in accordance to what our rules and restrictions state, for example, about the minimum square footage for a living dwelling, and you're using this as a living dwelling, and it doesn't match what the actual bylaws state, then we're gonna give you a notice up front that you're not in compliance with what your rules and bylaws state that you signed on to be a member of. We're just giving you notice up front. Once that notice is given to you, then we'll give you a timeline to get it rectified. If you don't get it rectified, then at that point, we have no choice but to give you liens and actually establish a fine for not doing so. And then that ends up going on that particular property forever. So if that individual at some point ever needs to sell, ever needs to get a refinance for something, ever does anything to tax that property. So the harbor and the board will get their money eventually. It may not be today, may be the next board, but they will get it instead of just letting it go by. That makes sense?
That's only moving forward, does it work for people that done stuff in the past?
No, we are. If there's not one of these forms, and somebody's, because all we have right now is the verbal. If somebody's telling, oh, I had approval, I had approval. Well, we've got all the office, everything that's in writing, we have. And if we can't find it, and you're not able to produce it, I'm not trying to call anybody that it's not the truth, but if we don't have it in writing, we don't have anything to go off of to verify. And if you're breaking the rules and regulations, obviously our rules and regulations state that we can sanction you. So all we're trying to do is let you guys invest in your money wisely here. We're asking that your neighbors do the same thing. Does that make sense? And it's in the rules and restrictions, in the bylaws. All we're doing is this particular board is trying to run it the way that this machine was set up for years previous, and it operated flawlessly back then. We're just asking to go back to the same. Yes, sir.
Not to detract from your point, maybe even adding to and having a kind of an understanding. I'm a pretty big animal lover. My parents let me get a couple of hamsters when I was a kid. They got out, ran around the house. Well, I brought a dog up here. I know some people love their animals and they have, pets and stuff, but is there a limit to the number of dogs I can have? Or?
So again, our bylaws and restrictions are all on our webpage as well to download, and every particular section has its own set of restrictions bylaws. So I don't know where you live, sir, exactly, but to let you know, it's there. Inside those, it does state, for the simple fact, because I've heard this question brought up as well, can you have chickens? Okay? We've asked the same question. Well, it's in our bylaws to say the word no foul. Well, I don't know if that means playing basketball, so I'm hacking it, but that's the words. So, and again, I keep reiterating this because do our rules and restrictions in our bylaws need to be updated? Absolutely, that's what we're trying to state. And so, but yes, it states in there about having domestic animals, but the number of animals, I think, is what has gotten out of hand. Is that your question?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Not addressed.
Right, so it's not addressed on the numbers. So what that falls under, obviously, at that point though, as far as the county, does the county have restrictions and rules and those sort of things in there? Every county does, and they change every year. So as far as us trying to keep up with every specific question, some of these we have to refer back to the county sheriff's department to try to help get you those answers. But yes, you can have dogs and cats. Can't have horses, unfortunately. Or hamsters. You can have hamsters, I guess, if they're in your house.
So when we do get to that point, then we'll have to figure out how do we get back to, do we have chickens? Do we not have chickens?
Yeah, well, it says none.
Yeah, it says no birds.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but
What,
I'm
like,
just
have like
saying.
parakeets or something?
No, I just know
believe
me and
it
him
says
had a
fowl.
discussion the other day when he was sitting there looking at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the whole reason we need
Roaming
to.
free.
Free range.
Free
Okay.
range chicken.
At this point, haven't had anybody else that actually emailed or called the board or placed anything to us or questions. Anybody else have any from anybody we're aware of?
No. I just, whenever, yeah.
that it? Anybody else?
I know a couple people said they wanted to drop off dues, so
Yeah,
I'm
well, we're gonna be
taking,
here
I'm
for,
taking money.
yep, we'll be here for a few minutes, closing everything down. If you have any other questions, wanna, talk individually though, but I need a
Make a
motion.
motion that
Motion
we
to
adjourn this meeting.
Absolutely. Second, all in favor, say aye. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming.